Chapter 2442. I'm from the hidden house. Your people started harassing our classmates the moment they came in, and Brother Kong couldn't stand it anymore. He scolded them a bit and they started fighting. I just asked my men to teach them a lesson. You coiling tiger knew that the fire wolves weren't to be messed with, but he wasn't afraid of these small fry in the gang. So you're a master from the hidden house. Sorry for the offense. The security captain nodded. Since you've said it out loud, let's forget about it. We'll mind our own business. With that, the security captain said to the other security guards, "Carry young Master Su, let's go." Yes. The security guards left as quickly as they came. In the blink of an eye they were far away. Most of the students in the class were confused. Why did these people come in such a threatening manner, and you coiling tiger left after saying a few words? Of course, this was also because they were far away, and they didn't hear what you coiling tiger and the security captain said. Lin Yi, however, frowned. It seemed that he had underestimated the fire wolves and red conches. They really had a lot of businesses. Boss Bai was eating with the other teachers in the private room, and he didn't notice what was happening outside. Bai Weitua saw that the matter was resolved and naturally he didn't report it. After lunch, Boss Bai brought everyone to a shopping mall in the ski field. He said, "Everyone can rent skis here. I'll pay for it, but if you need to buy a skis you'll have to pay for it yourself." Although everyone's money had been robbed along the way, the bank cards in their wallets were still there. The merchants here all supported credit cards, so some students didn't like to use rented old goods and preferred to buy a new pair of skis. Xiaolong was one of them. He had offended Wang Xinyan before and he wanted to make it up to her. He quickly walked to Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing. "Xinyan, what kind of skis do you want? I'll buy one for you." This was a trick Xiaolong learned from the book So Pure, So Flirtatious. He didn't know much about skis, but before Xinyan said anything he pretended to be knowledgeable and said to the shop owner, "Boss, do you have skis suitable for girls? I want the Murloc card. There are special ones for girls, but the skis of the entertainment brand?" The boss hesitated and said, "The skis of this brand aren't particularly easy to sell. Why don't you choose another brand?" "No need." Xiaolong said firmly, "I want the Fishman ski. It's this brand. There's no doubt about it. Don't worry so much. Hurry up and get it for me. Do you think that selling this brand won't bring you any profits? I can give you more money." Lin Yi was a little speechless at Xiaolong's behavior, but House Kong was indeed a nouveau riche family. Dr. Kong started with a prescription and didn't even know much about medicine, calling himself Dr. Kong. "Buy it yourself. We will buy another brand." Lin Yi glanced at the skis the boss took out and said directly, "Lin Yi, when it comes to fighting you're the best. But when it comes to snowboards I'm a professional." Xiaolong had been reading and learning these days, and the Murloc card was a very high-quality ski. That was why he asked for it. "Oh, don't regret it." Lin Yi replied nonchalantly as he pointed at another brand of snowboards on the counter. "I'll take this. Give me 3 pairs, 2 for women, 1 for men." "Okay." The boss nodded. He gave Xiaolong a pair of skis from the entertainment brand, and gave Lin Yi 3 of the most popular skis in the shop. Xiaolong's face wasn't looking good. It seemed that Xinyan didn't believe him at all, and chose to believe Lin Yi instead. But Xiaolong wasn't in a hurry to turn on Lin Yi. If he lost his composure in front of Xinyan, she would look down on him even more. So Xiaolong felt that it was better to take things step by step. He still had an important plan to implement. There was no need to be calculative over a temporary loss. After buying the skis and some ski equipment, Lin Yi, Xinyan and Han Jingjing left the shop. Some of the other students also bought some ski equipment. Although the skis could be rented, it was better to buy the ski shoes and goggles themselves. Xinyan was holding a pile of things Lin Yi bought for her. She felt very conflicted. If it wasn't for the fact that she didn't bring her bank card and gave all her cash to the robbers, she wouldn't have asked Lin Yi to spend money. But she was even more unwilling to ask Xiaolong to spend money. Although she didn't make a clear statement to Lin Yi, she had been so intimate with Lin Yi. Deep down in her heart, she already considered herself as Lin Yi's woman. She also believed that with the buffer of 4 years in university, Lin Yi would definitely be able to make the Sky Elixir sect compromise. As a result, Xinyan didn't want to owe Xiaolong anything. If she were to take something from him now, it'd be troublesome for her to pay him back in the future. So, after some internal struggle, Xinyan decided to take it. Lin Yi didn't expect Xinyan to have so many thoughts. After changing into ski equipment, Lin Yi asked, "Jingjing, Xinyan, do you guys know how to ski?" Lin Yi asked Han Jingjing and Xinyan, a little amused as he saw Bai Weitua fall a couple of times after changing into his ski gear. "No, but it doesn't look hard. I can give it a try." Han Jingjing had been observing people who were good at skiing for a long time, and she had a general understanding of the rules. Xinyan, on the other hand, was a little hesitant. She looked at Zhao Xingji and Chai Xiaoling holding hands, learning how to ski. She didn't expect Zhao Xingji to be so good at skiing despite being so fat, and Chai Xiaoling was obviously learning under his guidance. This scene made Xinyan wonder if Linny would teach her the same way if she didn't know how to ski. But at that moment, Xiaolong walked out with his skis and smiled at Xinyan. Xinyan, you don't know how to ski, do you? Let me teach you? Auntie knows about the winter outing, so she asked me to take care of you. Xiaolong didn't know much about snowboards, but that didn't mean he didn't know how to ski. Quite the contrary, he'd rented a set of ski equipment a couple of days ago when he was scouting the area with Tiger Wright. He'd spent the whole afternoon learning from the ski instructor, and while he couldn't say that he was a great skier, he was pretty good. To be continued. Chapter 2443. Xiaolong didn't have many good points, but he was very good at learning. He'd memorized all the important points the coach taught him just for this moment. Oh, I don't know how to do it either. Teach me in Xinyan, Linny said expressionlessly as he looked at Xiaolong. Ah? Xiaolong blinked. What? You don't know how to do it? Yeah, Xiaolong, since you're so passionate, you wouldn't just teach Xinyan and not me, would you? You wouldn't discriminate when Boss Bai encourages students to help each other, would you? Linny said faintly. Xiaolong didn't know what to say. He didn't think that Linny would jump out at this time, but there was nothing he could do. Alright, I'll ski one round and you watch me ski. How much you learn will depend on your ability to learn. Xinyan's a girl, and I've been asked by her parents to take care of her. It's not that I don't want to teach you, but I don't have enough time. Oh, go ahead then. Linny nodded. Xiaolong quickly changed into ski shoes, skis and goggles. Watch me, guys. Xiaolong said after getting everything ready. Linny responded, a mocking look in his eyes, but Xiaolong couldn't see it when he turned around. He warmed up and started skiing according to the skills he'd learned from the coach. Skiing wasn't hard. As long as you didn't make sharp turns or race and didn't do anything dangerous, normal people could learn it in a short amount of time. Xiaolong had practiced it before. It didn't take long for him to get the hang of it. Xiaolong skated faster and faster. He wanted to show off in front of Xinyan, but tragedy always happened when he was feeling proud. With a loud crack, Xiaolong's skis actually broke. Xiaolong fell head first onto the ground, rolling down the slope like a snowball. He rolled for a long time before he stopped, but his hair and body were covered in snow. He struggled for a long time before he finally got up. Coiling Tiger had been squatting far away with his two subordinates. Yupan, who didn't like skiing, and he was only here to accompany Xiaolong. While he was doing nothing, he saw something happen to Xiaolong. He hurriedly led his men and ran over. Kong bro, are you alright? Tiger Wright helped Xiaolong up. Oh, I'm so fucking unlucky. Xiaolong looked at the broken skis under his feet, speechless. His luck today was unusually bad. The ski broke? This thing can break? Could it be Lin Yi's doing? Right, Coiling Tiger frowned, thinking back to the Hidden House conference. Lin Yi had caused Zhao Qibing to fail for no reason. He suddenly had a bad feeling about this. Lin Yi? It couldn't be, right? I didn't even let him touch my skis. Xiaolong hesitated, unsure of what he was thinking. It's hard to say. He didn't touch your skis. However, he was a cultivator. What if he hit a pebble or something? It could break your skis too, right? Right, Coiling Tiger said. Let's go find Lin Yi. Xiaolong couldn't take it anymore and took off his skis. He grabbed the skis and went to find Lin Yi to demand an explanation. Xiaolong, your skiing skills are amazing. You even did a front somersault in the middle of the skis. We can't learn that. You'd be able to participate in a figure skiing show, Lin Yi said mockingly. He was pissed when he remembered that this guy was Xinyan's fiancé. Lin Yi, did you do this? Did you break my skis and embarrass me in front of Xinyan? Xiaolong ignored Lin Yi's mockery and questioned him directly. Xiaolong's words made Xinyan glance at Lin Yi. Xinyan didn't like Xiaolong and didn't want to have anything to do with him, but Xiaolong was still her official fiancé. Since Xinyan didn't want to be with him, she didn't want Lin Yi and Xiaolong to have any conflict. She didn't want to be with him and she didn't want anything bad to happen. What did I do? Lin Yi paused and remembered the broken skis in Xiaolong's hands. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're talking about the skis? It's good that you admit it. Xiaolong humphed coldly. Admit what? Admit what? You bought a pair of skis made from low-quality steel. The steel is hard and brittle in this cold weather, and the skis must be made from aluminum alloy. Don't tell me you don't know that? Lin Yi mocked. You spent a lot of money to buy a piece of trash and you're saying that someone broke it? Is that so? Xiaolong paused and said, That's impossible, I bought the Fishman skis, the best skis out there. How could there be a problem? It's a knockoff, right? Linny smiled. Xiaolong's eyes slid to the skis in his hands. When he saw the words entertainer on it, his face twitched. How was this a Fishman skis? It was a knockoff with the same name. He looked at the quality of the skis again. It was really bad. It was a piece of trash used to make up the numbers. Xiaolong couldn't help but blush. He didn't notice these details at all. He didn't think that Linny would have noticed it long ago. Why didn't you tell me before? Xiaolong felt a little guilty, but he was still angry that Linny didn't warn him earlier. He wouldn't have made a fool of himself and fallen so hard. I told you, don't regret buying it. You didn't listen, Linny said. Fuck. Xiaolong thought about it and recalled that Linny really did say something like that, but he thought that Linny was just arguing with him. Who would have thought that it wasn't the case? It was his fault for not taking it seriously. Xinyan, on the other hand, thought that Linny was a magnanimous person, maintaining his composure in front of his love rival. He even warned Xiaolong beforehand, but Xiaolong didn't listen. He brought this on himself, so who could he blame? Xinyan blushed at the thought of the word love rival. How could she think like that? She'd have to wait at least 4 years before she graduated from university. Xinyan Jing, did you guys understand Xiaolong's demonstration? Of course I'm talking about before. You don't need to learn the forward roll, Linny said. Jing understood a little, Han Jingjing nodded, but I don't think it's as good as Linny, bro. Xiaolong looked down on Han Jingjing. Wasn't this girl a little too open with her flattery? Right. Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, frowned. Linny and Han Jingjing's relationship seemed to be getting better and better. This wasn't good for him to get close to her. To be continued. Chapter 2444. Xiaolong humphed and turned to Tiger right. Lil bro, let's go find that shop owner and get even with him. How dare he sell our counterfeit goods? After Xiaolong left, Xinyan hesitated for a bit before deciding to go skiing with Lin Yi and Han Jingjing. Xinyan wasn't very skilled, but she was smart. She watched as the others skated and copied them, slowly starting to ski as well. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't plan on taking advantage of Xinyan. He could do it anytime he wanted. It didn't have to be when they were skiing. Lin Yi just followed behind Xinyan and Han Jingjing, afraid that they'd fall like Xiaolong. The afternoon passed quickly, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had returned a long time ago, but they didn't go skiing again. Instead, they sat at a nearby beverage shop and drank hot tea. Asking for an explanation for the snowboards was just an excuse for Xiaolong. He didn't really have any reason to go to the owner of the snowboards. He wanted to buy the snowboards himself, and both the shop owner and Lin Yi told him not to. Who could he blame if he didn't listen? He could only blame his poor eyesight for not seeing the counterfeit brand clearly. Everyone rested at night at a villa on another mountain. They had to take a cable car or a helicopter to get there. Of course, the cost of a helicopter was too high. Usually, only the rich would choose this method. The school connected all the students to the cable car, and Xiaolong and Tiger Right had already asked about this beforehand. Each cable car could only take 2 people, and it would be a good opportunity for Xiaolong and Xinyan. Medical students had the least number of students, so Boss Bai arranged for them to be at the back. But this way the medical students could play a little longer at the ski field, and naturally no one objected. Xinyan, come with me on the cable car later? Xiaolong walked over and invited her. The entertainment snowboard in his hand had long since been thrown away. Auntie just called me and asked me to take care of you? Wang Xinyan wanted to refuse. But after hearing the second half of Xiaolong's sentence, she felt troubled. Xiaolong's words had, without a doubt, touched her most nervous heartstrings. Xiaolong's words reminded her that too much contact with Lin Yi right now wouldn't do him any good. For Lin Yi, the Heavenly Elixir sect was an unsurpassable existence. If she behaved too intimately with Lin Yi, she would definitely be punished. It would bring Lin Yi a lot of unnecessary trouble. Xinyan sighed as she recalled how Xiaolong had been fawning over her all along the way. She didn't know why Xiaolong's house Kong was looking for a marriage alliance now that they had such a powerful backer. Could it be that it was just for the sake of face? But thinking about it, sometimes people lived by their face, especially aristocratic families. What was the difference between a Shao family that had become an aristocratic family and a Shao family that had not become an aristocratic family? Without strength, what was the use of fighting for a title? But Shao family still wanted to stand firmly in the ranks of aristocratic families. House Kong was the same. In the eyes of these aristocratic families, The face of the family was more important than anything else. She was Xiaolong's fiancée. If she were to be with Lin Yi, especially when Lin Yi was House Kang's enemy, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? Xinyan looked at Xiaolong's wounded body and hesitated. It shouldn't be a problem to ride the same cable car as him. He was injured all over, so he shouldn't do anything dirty, right? Alright, but we're still students. Even if we're engaged, some things can only be discussed after we graduate. Xinyan hesitated before speaking to Xiaolong. Her meaning was clear and she believed that Xiaolong would be able to understand it. As expected, a flash of anger appeared in Xiaolong's eyes. Xiaolong had just transferred, but he'd heard a lot of rumors about Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan because of Tiger Wright's presence. During military training she was living with Lin Yi, and the two were very intimate in the car. Xinyan seemed to be helping Lin Yi with that. All of this made Xiaolong feel like he was being cheated on. He wasn't too sure, but with his years of medical experience he could tell that Xinyan was still a virgin. He calmed himself down and said, "Of course, Auntie said that we should respect each other." Xiaolong thought that if he wanted to develop a relationship with Xinyan, this time on the cable car wouldn't be a problem. Once something unexpected happened, Xinyan would develop a sense of dependence on him. All right. Xinyan didn't reject Xiaolong after hearing his words. Lin Yi frowned. He didn't really want Xinyan and Xiaolong to be on the same cable car, but it was true that only two people could sit on a cable car. This was Xinyan's decision and Lin Yi wouldn't interfere. But Xinyan's words made Lin Yi ponder. Graduate from university? Xinyan evidently didn't like Xiaolong. She would have been acting so intimately with Xiaolong otherwise, but with Xiaolong, it was just mutual respect. What Lin Yi didn't understand was what Xinyan was thinking. She didn't like Xiaolong, and yet she still wanted to keep the engagement. Was there some secret she couldn't tell? Although Lin Yi really wanted to find out, Xinyan wouldn't tell him if he asked directly. He could only observe from the side. The other students had already left on the cable car to the resort on the other side of the mountain. His classmates also got on the cable car with the staff, and only Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xiaolong, and Xinyan were left. The last ones to get on the cable car were Tiger Wright's underlings, Yellow Hair and Purple Hair. Let's go. Lin Yi, you stay behind. Xiaolong gestured for Xinyan to get on the cable car. Xinyan saw that he was being obedient and didn't try anything funny, so she nodded and got on the cable car. The two seats in the cable car were facing each other so they weren't too close. After Xinyan got on, Xiaolong got on as well. When Xinyan and Xiaolong's cable car was far away, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing got on the cable car at the back. Xinyan, you seem a little scared? Do you have acrophobia? Xiaolong smiled as he looked at the nervous Xinyan. Xinyan didn't have acrophobia, but she wasn't used to sitting in the same cable car as Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 24:45. She couldn't answer Xiaolong's question directly, so she nodded lightly. And, do you need my warm hand? Xiaolong reached out, wanting her to hold his hand. No, it's fine. Xinyan shifted her gaze to the outside of the cable car, looking at the two snowy mountains with a bottomless valley in the middle. It was all so beautiful, but it was too bad that she wasn't riding the cable car with Lin Yi. Xinyan's heart skipped a beat when she thought of Lin Yi. She realized that ever since Lin Yi confessed to her, she wasn't calm anymore. She'd think of Lin Yi often, but it was a blur. Now that she thought of Lin Yi, she'd always put him in the position of boyfriend. It was a difficult situation. She knew that this couldn't go on, but there was nothing she could do. The hardest thing to control was the human heart. Feelings couldn't be changed by willpower. Even if Xinyan didn't want to think of Lin Yi, she still had to remind herself not to think of Lin Yi. That was the same as thinking of Lin Yi. It was really difficult. Xinyan, do you think the cable car will crash and fall? Xiaolong asked. How would I know? Xinyan frowned. Couldn't Xiaolong say something auspicious? Why was he thinking about the cable car crash? It's not impossible for the cable car to fall into the valley, Xiaolong said. But it's fine, I've prepared some survival equipment. Xinyan didn't know what to say. This Xiaolong really was the best choice for a boyfriend. Who told disgusting jokes during a meal and cursed the cable car for crashing the moment they got on. If it was Lin Yi, he'd probably hug her and train. Why was she thinking of Lin Yi again? Xinyan shook her head. Xiaolong thought that she didn't believe the cable car would crash when she shook her head. Of course, it wouldn't crash under normal circumstances, but this situation was a bit special. Xiaolong had been studying the prequel to So Pure, So Flirtatious. The main character was at the ski resort when he was hitting on girls. Then, the male and female protagonists fell into the valley together. Then they survived in the wild together and finally fell in love. In the wilderness, especially when there was danger, it was easy to feel helpless. If Xiaolong put his heart into it, it wouldn't be a problem for him to win Xinyan's heart. However, what he feared would come true. Xinyan was admiring the beautiful scenery outside the window when she heard an explosion. She felt the gravity go out of control, and realized that the cable car she was on had left the cable car, and was falling straight down into the valley. Xinyan didn't know what to say. She was annoyed at Xiaolong's jinx. She decided that she would never be with Xiaolong again. This guy was too unlucky, getting beaten up by robbers and gangsters all the time. He was tricked to buy a snowboard and the cable car broke in the middle. He was possessed by the god of misfortune. Xiaolong, naturally, didn't think that Xinyan had already categorized him as a dangerous person to stay away from. She was still proud of herself for coming up with such a good plan. He'd studied the location of this ski resort before. The cable car was built between two mountains and there was a lake at the foot of the mountain. There was even a cave nearby and it was a paradise for lovers. If only he and Xinyan could get lost in this place, then he'd be able to. He felt that something interesting was about to happen. Wang Xinyan, in her loneliness and helplessness, might also be happy. Xinyan, don't worry. We'll jump out now. If we fall in this cable car, we'll die for sure. Xinyan opened the door and jumped before Xiaolong could finish. She wasn't confident in Xiaolong, but she was confident in Lin Yi. She'd known Lin Yi for a long time, and she knew that falling from this height wasn't dangerous for a practitioner like Lin Yi. She didn't want Xiaolong to hug her and take advantage of her. At this moment, Xinyan was thinking that if Lin Yi really didn't care about her and didn't come to save her, then it'd be better if he died. She wouldn't let Xiaolong take advantage of her, and she wouldn't have to worry about these things. Lin Yi frowned when he saw that Xiaolong's cable car was shot down by Purple Hair's hidden weapon. He could roughly guess Xiaolong's trick. No wonder this guy wanted to ride the cable car with Xinyan. He wanted to play unfinished love in the valley. Jingjing, stay in the cable car. Don't wait for me. I'll go save Xinyan. Take care of yourself, Lin Yi said to Han Jingjing. Okay. Han Jingjing didn't stop Lin Yi. She nodded quickly to show that she understood. Before the cable car left the cable car, the doors were electronically controlled. It couldn't be opened unless the circuit was destroyed or the cable car was derailed. However, Lin Yi broke through the window and jumped down in Xinyan's direction. With their falling speed, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. But Lin Yi was a practitioner, and with the help of pure qi, catching up to Xinyan wasn't a problem. Xiaolong didn't think that Xinyan would be so decisive. She jumped down when he told her to, but he wasn't even done talking. Xiaolong wanted to say that he had a parachute and let Xinyan carry him down, but Xinyan didn't seem to be waiting for him at all. Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car. If he let Xinyan fall down, wouldn't she be dead? With that in mind, Xiaolong jumped down from the cable car and chased after Xinyan, preparing to open the parachute in his backpack. Luckily, Xiaolong had a power jet in his backpack. Otherwise, he really wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. Of course, this power jet was also prepared for a safe landing when the time came. There was a lake at the bottom of the valley after all. The water in the lake was flowing and there was only a thin layer of ice on top. Xiaolong didn't want to fall into the lake, so he used the power jet to change his landing position. He didn't expect to use it to chase after Xinyan. Xinyan didn't think too much when she jumped down, but the sound of the wind whistling in her ears scared her. She looked down at the bottomless abyss and she felt like she was really going to die. Xinyan, I'm coming. Catch me. Xiaolong didn't care about opening the parachute. Chasing after Xinyan was more important. If he opened the parachute, his speed would be very slow, and he wouldn't be able to catch up to Xinyan. To be continued. Chapter 2446. Xinyan had an instinctive urge to live. She really wanted to grab onto Xiaolong, but she knew that if she did, their relationship would be complicated in the future. Xinyan gritted her teeth and pretended that she didn't hear anything. But just because Xinyan didn't hear him didn't mean that Xiaolong didn't care. He used his jet boost to chase after Xinyan, and just as he was about to catch up, he felt a huge force pushing him to the side from his back. Fuck off. Lin Yi kicked Xiaolong's back, sending him more than 10 meters away. Fuck. Lin Yi, why is it you again? Xiaolong was furious when he saw Lin Yi. He was about to explode. He thought that he and Xinyan would have a romantic love story when they fell into the valley, but he didn't think that Lin Yi would follow them as well. Not only did he follow them, but he also ruined his chance to be intimate with Xinyan. Xiaolong was furious. Lin Yi, aren't you a little too mean? Kicking me from behind? That's not as mean as letting the purple hair knock the cable car down. Lin Yi glared coldly at Xiaolong, thinking that this kid had some tricks up his sleeves. He wasn't a complete idiot after all. He knew to knock the cable car down and bring a parachute and jet boost just to have a romantic trip to the bottom of the valley with Xinyan. Xiaolong didn't expect Lin Yi to know what he was doing so well. His face froze and he didn't know how to refute. Xinyan, on the other hand, was furious after hearing Xiaolong's words. She thought that the cable car falling was an accident, but who would have thought that it wasn't an accident at all? It was Xiaolong's scheme. The thought of Xiaolong using her life as a joke made Xinyan hate Xiaolong even more. She didn't want to see Xiaolong get so unlucky every time, but now she felt that he deserved it. So, when Lin Yi came over to hug her, she only struggled a little before accepting it. She was pissed off by Xiaolong. Xiaolong's face darkened after being exposed by Lin Yi. He felt that Lin Yi was the villain in very pure, very dubious prequel, but in reality the villain had become the main character. Had he become the villain? But there was nothing Xiaolong could do. Lin Yi was hugging Xinyan and all he could do was watch. The most important thing right now was to stay alive. Xiaolong reached out to press the parachute button on his backpack, but his face paled when he touched it. Coincidentally, the button of the parachute had just been kicked to pieces by Lin Yi. Lin Yi, you broke my parachute. Xiaolong glared at Lin Yi. Oh. Lin Yi didn't even look at him. He snorted. Fuck. Are you trying to kill me? Xiaolong screamed at the top of his lungs when he saw that Lin Yi was ignoring him. Save me. I'll die if I fall. Lin Yi ignored him. Xiaolong panicked. He didn't expect this to happen. The parachute was broken. If he fell, would he be able to survive? In a moment of desperation, Xiaolong had no choice but to beg. Lin Yi, please save me. I don't want to die. Oh. Lin Yi continued to ignore him. If you save me, I can turn a blind eye to what happened between you and Xinyan. Please. Xiaolong didn't care about his dignity anymore. His life was more important. But even though he said that, he didn't think that way at all. His priority was to stay alive. If he denied it, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do anything. You can control the jet assist yourself. Isn't there a lake down there? You won't die if you jump into it. Lin Yi reminded him, but he didn't believe Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong must be a villain to be able to do something like this. Xiaolong saw that Lin Yi wasn't going to help him, so he had no choice but to control the jet assist and adjust his falling direction to the lake below the valley. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong like a stray dog and found it funny. She didn't feel sorry for Xiaolong at all. He brought this upon himself. The cable car was working perfectly fine, but he let Tiger Wright's men destroy it, and now he's suffering the consequences of his own actions. Lin Yi held Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan couldn't feel the cold wind around her because of the pure chi barrier, but Xiaolong was in a much worse situation. Not only did he have to watch his feet in the cold wind, but he also had to control the jet assist with cold sweat all over his body, afraid that he'd fall off and become a cripple. After a while, Lin Yi landed with Xinyan in his arms. Xinyan didn't even feel the impact of the landing, as Lin Yi's pure chi barrier had completely nullified it. Xiaolong, on the other hand, plopped his butt on the ice of the lake, punched a hole in the ice and dived into the lake. After a long time he crawled out of the hole, sneezing and looking very pitiful. Achoo! Xiaolong climbed out of the lake shakily. Luckily he knew how to swim and the place he dived into was a little shallow. He couldn't even reach his head if he stood up straight. Otherwise he'd freeze to death even if he didn't fall to his death. Lin Yi was looking around, not in a hurry to go back. This was a chance for Xiaolong to get close to Xinyan, but it was also a chance for Lin Yi. Being able to spend time with Xinyan alone was a rare opportunity, so Lin Yi wasn't in a hurry to leave. Xinyan, let's find a place to rest first. Lin Yi said to Xinyan after seeing a cave nearby. Okay. Xinyan looked at Xiaolong and nodded after some hesitation. Xiaolong was in a pretty bad state right now, but the thought of what Xiaolong had done before, especially the crash of the cable car, made Xinyan grit her teeth in anger. How could this person not care about other people's lives at all? Was he trying to murder her? Lin Yi and Xinyan entered the cave, and Xiaolong shamelessly followed them. He had no choice but to follow them. This was the cave he'd found the other day on the helicopter ride with Tiger Wright, and it was the closest one. He'd even hidden some branches in the cave to start a fire. To be continued. Chapter 2447. If they went to another cave, there wouldn't be any branches. He was shivering from the cold right now, and it was like asking him to pick up some more branches. How could he do that? There's some branches here. Can we start a fire? Xinyan was a little cold as well. Although Lin Yi had used his pure energy to protect her, she still felt the chill in this empty valley. Half. Xiaolong yelled as he ran over, panting heavily. His heart was bleeding, however. He was the one who found the tree branch and he had to give half of it to Lin Yi. But he didn't dare reject Xinyan's discovery, after all. Oh, you can have half then, Lin Yi said faintly. He could tell that the branches were placed here by someone else. Who else could it be other than Xiaolong? Haha. Xiaolong didn't hold back. He thought for a moment and said, "Right, do you guys have lighters? Why don't we start a fire here? I'll start a fire and we'll all stay together. What do you think?" Okay. Lin Yi didn't want to freeze Xiaolong to death in a situation like this. After all, Boss White valued the harmony between his disciples a lot, and Lin Yi respected Boss White a lot. Boss White's background wasn't simple, and Lin Yi had to listen to him. Then I won't hold back. Xiaolong was overjoyed. He took out a lighter from his pocket and squatted in front of the branches. You're quite well equipped, aren't you? You don't smoke and you have a lighter with you? You prepared it long ago, didn't you? Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong teasingly. You wanted to have a romantic night with Xinyan in the cave, and you didn't expect me to join? Xiaolong felt a little awkward, but he couldn't deny it. Looking at Xinyan's displeased face, Xiaolong thought that today was his unlucky day. If he'd known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have gone through with this plan. How unlucky. However, the worst thing was yet to come. Xiaolong pressed the lighter twice and his face froze. The lighter was soaked in water and he couldn't light it. Aren't you going to light a fire? What's wrong? Lin Yi smiled at Xiaolong. Water? Xiaolong said, his face pale. Since you cannot contribute, there is no other way. You can forget about enjoying this bonfire, Lin Yi said coolly. You have a way. Xiaolong paused and looked at Lin Yi. You have a lighter? No. Lin Yi shook his head. Why are you talking about me if you don't have it? Xiaolong glared at Lin Yi. Can you fix the lighter? Go cultivate yourself. Lin Yi casually tossed out a fire-type alchemic flame. The twigs caught on fire with a whoosh. The fire was very strong. Xiaolong remembered that Lin Yi was a refiner, and he could condense alchemic flame. He didn't need a lighter at all, so he shamelessly came over. It's a waste if I don't use the heat from this bonfire anyways. Let me have some? Sure, but you'll have to go collect the twigs later. Lin Yi didn't push him too far. Alright, let me dry my clothes first. Xiaolong agreed without hesitation. He and Tiger Right had picked up the twigs earlier, and he knew where to find them. Xiaolong was shivering by the fire, and Xinyan had recovered a long time ago. She didn't have any water on her, and it was just a bit of cold air. She was fine now. Hungry? Lin Yi asked. I'm fine. Xinyan still couldn't let go. She didn't like Xiaolong very much, but she was afraid that he'd force the Sky Elixir sect to harm Lin Yi. I'll go catch some fish. Lin Yi stood up. Okay, I'll sleep for a bit. I'm a bit sleepy. Xinyan didn't want to be alone with Xiaolong, so she found an excuse. Xiaolong was speechless. He heard that Lin Yi was going to catch fish. He was very happy, but when he heard that Xinyan was going to sleep, he didn't know what to say. But he couldn't let Xinyan stay up to talk to him, could he? Lin Yi left and Xinyan closed her eyes to rest. Xiaolong could only sit by the fire, depressed. But thinking about the delicious fish he'd be eating soon, his mouth watered. He had some chocolate and hardtacks in his backpack, but they weren't as delicious as the fish. Lin Yi came to the lakeside. There were always some fish in a naturally formed lake. Lin Yi walked carefully to the hole Xiaolong had made and closed his eyes, using the jade senses to reach out and catch the fish in the lake. It didn't take long for him to catch 4 fish. He took out a blade from his shoe and cut open the fish's stomach before returning to the cave. Although Lin Yi didn't think that Xiaolong would do anything to Xinyan, Lin Yi still wanted to be quick. He returned to the cave and saw that Xinyan was still sleeping. He let out a breath of relief. You're back? Xinyan heard footsteps and opened her eyes. She was happy to see Lin Yi. Yeah. Lin Yi found a few branches and put the fish on top of the fire to roast. Xiaolong didn't know what to say to Xinyan, who had slept for less than 20 minutes. Xinyan obviously didn't want to talk to him. He could feel that ever since the cable car incident, Xinyan had become a lot colder towards him. Xinyan had kept her distance from him before, but it wasn't like now, where she didn't even want to talk to him. Soon the fish was done. There wasn't any seasoning, but it was delicious. Xiaolong's mouth watered. Can we eat now? Yes, but you can't eat it. Lin Yi took a skewer of fish and gave it to Xinyan. What? Xiaolong's hand froze. Go get it yourself if you want. Xinyan and I will each get 2 skewers. You're not getting any, Lin Yi said as he took a skewer and started eating. Xiaolong really wanted to snatch it but he didn't dare. He was afraid of getting beaten up. He smiled bitterly and squeezed out an expression that looked worse than crying. Okay, he's a bad guy but you don't have to be so harsh. We're classmates after all. Xinyan didn't want Lin Yi to offend Xiaolong. You want to eat and get something for free? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Lin Yi didn't care. Xiaolong didn't have Lin Yi's strong senses, and he didn't have Lin Yi's skills either. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 2448. Even though he could occasionally see a few fish swimming around, he couldn't catch them. After a long time he didn't catch anything. Instead he used too much strength and the ice beneath his feet cracked. Xiaolong jumped back into the cold lake, screaming. His scream attracted Lin Yi and Xinyan's attention. But Lin Yi didn't care when he saw that Xiaolong had only fallen into the lake. He wasn't far from the shore and the water was shallow. Xiaolong wasn't in a rush to get back up after falling into the lake. Enduring the cold, he reached out his hands to fish around in the lake, trying to catch some fish to roast, but the fish were very smart. He couldn't catch them no matter what, and after a long time of searching he didn't find a single fish. Just as he was feeling depressed he felt 2 things from the bottom of the lake. He didn't know what they were but he picked them up. It was a turtle and the turtle was holding a small bottle in its claws. After Xiaolong caught the turtle, it released its claws and retracted its head and claws back into its shell, leaving the bottle in Xiaolong's hands. I'm quite lucky. I didn't catch a fish but I caught a turtle. Xiaolong grinned, thinking that the turtle was fine. He hadn't eaten a roasted turtle before and he didn't know what it tasted like. He didn't go fishing anymore and climbed up the shore, running back quickly. He waved the turtle in front of Xinyan and Lin Yi. What do you think? It's pretty high class, right? This thing costs a lot in the market. Oh, you eat it then? Lin Yi looked at the turtle, not thinking much of it. He'd never heard of a turtle being roasted before. How was it supposed to be roasted with such a thick shell? Xinyan, do you want it? Xiaolong didn't even want to give it to Lin Yi. His target was Xinyan. No thanks. I'm full. Xinyan shook her head, thinking that the turtle was quite scary. Xiaolong prepared to roast the turtle while warming the fire, but when it came time to do so, Xiaolong didn't know how to roast the turtle. It had retracted its head and limbs and Xiaolong didn't know where to start. What is this? Xiaolong looked at the small bottle in his hand. It was a transparent bottle with an unknown blue liquid inside. Xiaolong didn't know what it was, but he didn't open the bottle to see what it was. After all, this thing was found in the lake. Who knew if it was poison or chemicals or something like that? It wouldn't be fun if it was poisoned. At that thought, Xiaolong wanted to throw the bottle away. Wait. Lin Yi stopped Xiaolong. What are you doing? You want it? Xiaolong asked. What if it's some kind of chemical explosive that explodes when you throw it? Lin Yi, of course, wouldn't say that he was interested in the bottle in Xiaolong's hand. He frowned and said in an unpleasant tone. Tisk, you're just trying to scare me? Xiaolong said disdainfully, but on the inside, his heart skipped a beat. He did think that there was something bad in the bottle and that it might be chemicals, but he didn't think that it was chemical. What if it really was explosives? Wouldn't it explode when he threw it? At that thought, Xiaolong passed the bottle to Lin Yi as if it was a hot potato. I'll throw it further away. Lin Yi stood up and walked out of the cave, but he didn't throw the bottle away. Instead he asked, Jiao Lao, why do I feel like this is something good? It really is something good. There's a lot of water energy in it but I don't know what it is. Jiao Yazi's voice sounded in Lin Yi's ear. As long as it's something good, I'll keep it for now. Lin Yi put the bottle in his pocket and returned to the cave. Xiaolong was roasting the turtle with fire. The turtle's shell was too thick, so Xiaolong threw the whole thing into the fire to roast. He thought that even the thickest shell would be cooked this way. The turtle was thrown into the fire by Xiaolong. It was obviously uncomfortable and it struggled to get out of the fire. But as soon as it got out, Xiaolong kicked it back into the fire over and over again. Xiaolong was kicking it like a ball and he was having a lot of fun. Wang Xinyan frowned. Although turtles were human food, she didn't like the way Xiaolong was abusing it. You can't kick a turtle like a ball, can you? After being kicked into the fire a few times, the turtle's struggles grew weaker and weaker. It couldn't take it anymore. The sound of the fire burning the turtle's shell was a little piercing to the ears. Xinyan turned around, not wanting to see Xiaolong torture the turtle. But at this moment, Lin Yi suddenly felt an incomparably powerful aura suddenly appearing, carrying with it a sense of extreme danger, and the jade on his chest also sent out a warning signal at this moment. The jade's warning signal would only go off when Lin Yi or a member of his team was in danger. Lin Yi trusted the jade's warning signal, and with that sudden feeling Lin Yi was on high alert. He wanted to pull Xinyan's hand and leave the cave. The cave was small and they could see the end, but Lin Yi felt that the danger didn't come from inside the cave, but from outside. As a result, Lin Yi wanted to leave the cave as soon as possible. If he was too late he'd be stuck in the cave. But the danger came too fast. From the moment Lin Yi felt the danger to the moment it came, it was only a few seconds. Lin Yi didn't even have time to pull Xinyan away before the danger arrived. Lin Yi sucked in a cold breath as he looked at the huge monster outside the cave. He had no choice but to pull Xinyan back into the cave, hoping that the monster wouldn't enter the cave and get stuck at the entrance. But Xiaolong didn't seem to sense any danger at all. He was still kicking the little turtle excitedly, having a lot of fun. Ah! Xinyan raised her head from Lin Yi's tug, realizing that something wasn't right. She jumped in fright and called out subconsciously, "Lin Yi!" With a roar, a giant claw reached into the hole and sent Xiaolong flying with a single slap. Then it snatched the little turtle from the fire. Xiaolong wasn't hit directly, but the force of the attack still sent him tumbling, his head hitting the wall of the cave. Blood started to flow and he didn't know what had happened. He was about to curse when he raised his head, only to be dumbfounded. Chapter 2449. A gigantic turtle was blocking the entrance of the cave, glaring at the half-dead little turtle in front of it with grief and indignation. It roared angrily, "All of you must die. Die with my child." Sky-class spirit beast? Lin Yi was quite annoyed. Xiaolong's luck was off the charts. He caught a little turtle, and now he'd attracted an old sky-class turtle. The turtle paused, not expecting the people in the cave to recognize it as a spirit beast, and a sky-class at that. The reason why he spoke earlier was to scare the cruel humans in the cave and then kill them. What it didn't expect was that there was a practitioner in the cave. Only a practitioner would be able to tell that it was a sky-class spirit beast. Since you know that I'm a sky-class spirit beast, don't even think about living after crippling my child. The turtle roared. Come out and die. Xiaolong was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect to attract a big turtle when he caught a little turtle. Of course, that wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that the turtle could speak. Sky-class turtle, the one who crippled your child is him, the one you just slapped away. This has nothing to do with us. Don't come looking for us. Lin Yi looked at the turtle, feeling a headache coming on. He didn't expect to meet a sky-class spirit beast here. Who knew how long this spirit beast had been training here, but it wasn't surprising. This place was developed into a tourist attraction, but the two mountains were connected by cable cars. No one came to the valley, and no one would have thought that a turtle like this would be hiding at the bottom of the lake. Lin Yi, you're so evil. You sold me out. Xiaolong's face changed. He didn't expect Lin Yi to say something like that. You were the one who caught that little turtle. What does that have to do with us? Lin Yi asked. Xiaolong's face was very ugly. He didn't know what to say. I don't care, you're all going to die. The turtle didn't seem to want to hear an explanation. You guys are together. Look at how he's torturing my child. None of you tried to stop it, so all of you have to die. Haha. Xiaolong heard the turtle's words and looked at Lin Yi's speechless poker face, laughing at Lin Yi's misfortune. Idiot. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. You won't have to die if I die? Jie? Xiaolong's laughter stopped abruptly as he realized that Lin Yi was dead. Wasn't he going to die as well? Come out and die. The big turtle said impatiently. I'm not going out. Do you think we're stupid? Going out to die? Xiaolong humphed. Not coming out? Fine, then I'll block the entrance of the cave. Let's see if you can survive. The big turtle roared angrily. It stretched out its claws and continuously slapped the stone wall of the cave. Immediately there was a loud rumbling sound. Rocks the size of rubber balls came crashing down. If this continued, the entrance of the cave would be destroyed by the big turtle. Even if it couldn't get in, it would suffocate Lin Yi and the others in the cave. This big turtle clearly wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. It was obvious that it wasn't an attack-type spirit beast. Perhaps it was a defense-type or some other type of spirit beast. Although it could smash a lot of rocks with its full strength, this level of attack could only be achieved by a golden class master. Plus, the fact that the big turtle didn't kill Xiaolong in one swipe was proof of this. It could be said that the big turtle didn't kill Xiaolong directly because it wanted to save the little turtle, but Xiaolong didn't seem to be heavily injured. It was obvious that the big turtle wasn't that strong. This made Lin Yi sigh in relief. He was afraid that the big turtle wouldn't say anything and just come in and kill them. "You're the one who caused this." Lin Yi glared at Xiaolong. "Lin Yi, don't blame me. If you don't think of a way, we'll all die." Xiaolong could only put all his hopes on Lin Yi. Lin Yi was speechless. But he still said helplessly to the big turtle, "Stop. I can save your child." "You save my child?" The big turtle paused for a second, but it humphed coldly, "How is that possible? My child is heavily injured, and he hasn't even reached golden class yet. I can't even do anything to him. Don't try to lie to me. If you want your child to die, then keep talking. Keep talking nonsense." Lin Yi said, Can you really save my child?" The big turtle hesitated. "Won't you know if I can or not if I try?" Lin Yi shrugged. "I can go out and heal your child. If I can heal him, then you let us go. If not, then kill me. How about that?" "Sure." The big turtle hesitated. Lin Yi's request wasn't fair. It was their people who crippled the little turtle, and it was normal for them to heal it. It could still punish Lin Yi and the others, but it couldn't heal the little turtle at this point. It could only put its hopes on Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't want to help Xiaolong, but the big turtle thought they were on the same side. Lin Yi saving Xiaolong was equivalent to saving himself. He couldn't care less and started walking out of the cave. Xinyan was startled, afraid that the big turtle wouldn't keep its promise. She wanted to stop Lin Yi, but when she thought about what Lin Yi had decided, there was no way she could stop him. Plus, what else could Lin Yi do if he didn't go out? Was the big turtle going to let them go? Xinyan looked at Xiaolong with disdain. Coward, causing trouble and not taking responsibility for it. Lin Yi walked out of the cave slowly, and the big turtle didn't attack him. It put the little turtle down and asked coldly, "What are you waiting for? Healing?" Lin Yi nodded and sat cross-legged on the ground. He picked up the little turtle and started using the second stage of the art of dragon mastery to heal it. Lin Yi didn't come out because he wanted to take a risk, but because he had a general understanding of the big turtle's strength. It wouldn't be easy for it to kill Lin Yi. An Earth-class mid-phase peak? The big turtle saw through Lin Yi's strength when Lin Yi was using his arts. It was a little surprised. Spirit beasts were rare, but there weren't many human practitioners. The big turtle had lived for thousands of years and it had seen a lot of things. It was normal for rich people to have a few golden-class bodyguards, and some mafia bosses or robbers could be golden-class practitioners as well. But those were rare, and mystic class and above were rare. Only hidden houses would have them, and earth class was even rarer. Chapter 2450. Lin Yi didn't answer the turtle's question, continuing to heal the little turtle. It didn't take long, especially since the little turtle was only burnt. Lin Yi didn't have any problems healing it, especially since it was only half dead from the burn. Of course, other than healing the little turtle, Lin Yi wouldn't help it level up. He didn't have much of a relationship with the big turtle, and he didn't want to reveal too much in front of Xiaolong. Healing spirit beasts wasn't a big deal. Lin Yi was a miracle doctor after all, and Xiaolong knew a thing or two about it. Lin Yi was in a blind spot outside the cave, and he couldn't see what was going on outside. If Xiaolong asked, Lin Yi would just say that he used Miracle Dr. Guan's special medicine. There was no need to say anything else. At first, the big turtle was doubtful that Lin Yi could heal the little turtle. After all, the little turtle was almost cooked. How was he supposed to heal it? But as Lin Yi's practitioner's art circulated, the big turtle's eyes flashed with doubt, followed by excitement. It could sense that the little turtle's injuries were getting better. Although it couldn't see the little turtle's injuries, it could sense that the little turtle's life force was gradually strengthening. This calmed the anger in the big turtle's heart. It's done? Lin Yi put the little turtle on the ground and turned to the big turtle. If you want revenge, then go find that guy from before. If you don't want revenge, then please leave. The big turtle looked into the cave and hesitated. It picked up the little turtle and walked slowly towards the lake. Lin Yi noticed that the lake's ice had been broken, and the big turtle's nest was at the bottom of the lake. He watched as the two left before turning back to the cave. Let's go, he said to Xinyan and Xiaolong. Ah, okay. Xiaolong naturally nodded in agreement. Xinyan was a bit confused. Lin Yi had already sent the big turtle away. Why did he still want to leave? But since it was Lin Yi's request, she didn't hesitate and nodded, following Lin Yi and Xiaolong out of the cave. Where are we going? Xiaolong walked out of the cave and was hit by the cold wind. He didn't want to leave again, but he remembered how scary the turtle was. He shuddered, not daring to stay any longer. How do you plan to leave? Lin Yi frowned and asked, according to your plan, how are you going to get back if you fall from the cable car? Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi, then at Xinyan, a little embarrassed. I'll tell Right Panhu to bring a helicopter to pick us up in 2 days. Lin Yi was speechless and said, let's leave this place first. Let's go quickly. I think the big turtle will catch up with us soon. Isn't it done? Why did it go back on its words? Xiaolong asked carefully. I don't know what was in that bottle, but it might be the turtle's treasure. I've lost it. If it remembers, it'll. Do you think it'll come looking for us? Lin Yi said. Fuck. Why did you throw it away? You're looking for trouble. Xiaolong said, a little displeased. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He glared at him and said, you picked it up, didn't you? Xiaolong remembered that if he didn't bring the little turtle and the broken bottle back, there wouldn't be so much trouble. He quickly shut his mouth, not daring to say anything else. Call Right Panhu and tell him to send a helicopter to us immediately, Lin Yi said. I don't have a phone. I got robbed. Xiaolong smiled bitterly. Here. Lin Yi gave his phone to Xiaolong. In order to save his life, Xiaolong didn't dare play any tricks. He called Right Panhu directly. After a long time, he remembered that Right Panhu's phone was stolen as well. He had no choice but to call Boss Bai and hope that they were together. Lin Yi? How are you guys? Boss Bai was relieved when he got Lin Yi's call. He just got the news that Xiaolong and Xinyan's cable car had crashed, and Lin Yi had jumped down as well. Boss Bai was confident in Lin Yi's Earth-class skills, but he couldn't help but worry about Xinyan and Xiaolong's situation. He wanted to ask for help immediately, but Right Panhu stopped him, saying that Xiaolong was definitely fine and that he and Xinyan were having a romantic time, so he didn't need to worry about them. Boss Bai furrowed his brows and asked what had happened. Although he was angry that Xiaolong was risking his life for something like this, he breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that the person in question was fine. He scolded Right Panhu and told him that if he didn't pass his exams, he'd be fired. This wasn't a school, but Boss Bai was still very angry at Right Panhu for helping Xiaolong. He didn't care about the danger at all. Master Bai, it's Xiaolong? Xiaolong said with a sob. Master Bai, is Right Panhu nearby? Right Panhu? He's here. Boss Bai passed the phone to Right Panhu, not wanting to get involved in this. Kong bro, what's wrong? Right Panhu was a little upset. He could have just lied to Boss Bai, but Lin Yi had jumped down as well, and Lin Yi must have noticed that something was wrong, so he couldn't hide it anymore. He had to tell the truth. Lil bro, you send a helicopter to pick us up. We're in trouble. Xiaolong said urgently. Okay. Right Panhu paused. He didn't know what the trouble was, but Xiaolong seemed to be in a hurry, so he quickly agreed. After agreeing, Panhu Right went to the security department of the resort to send a helicopter to pick up Xiaolong. This was the agreement he made with the resort the last time he came to the resort. If the cable car fell, they wouldn't be in a hurry to find him. They could only wait for him to come and send a helicopter to look for him. But this time there was an accident. Right Panhu entered the security room and saw Su Lung and his 2 underlings, who were screaming and bandaging their wounds. The security guards from before were there as well. Panhu frowned and ignored them. Instead, he turned to another security guard sitting at the desk and said, Captain Sun, according to our previous agreement, send a helicopter to look for my friend now. The security captain was about to agree to Right Panhu's request when he heard an angry shout. Chapter 2451. Lung Su yelled, No. No one is allowed to go. Why send a helicopter? Throw this kid out for me. Su Lungzi suffered a hidden loss. He had just found his uncle to stand up for him, but after his uncle heard that Yu Panhu was hiding the Yu family's background, he hesitated for a moment and let Su Lungzi endure it. Su Lungzi felt very stifled. This ski resort was his family's territory. In the past, it was always others who were at a disadvantage. This time it was his turn. Naturally, he didn't want to. Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and was in a difficult position. On one side was the general manager and on the other side was Lung Su. These 2 people were asking him to go east and west. He had a headache, but he remembered that the general manager was the most powerful person in the resort, so he said to Lung Su, Lung bro, this is what the general manager said. What do you think? Isn't my uncle afraid that Fire Wolf Gang will blame him? It's okay. My cousin is good friends with the person in charge of Fire Wolf Gang. If something happens, I'll talk to him. Lung Su roared hysterically, Captain Sun, tell him to leave. Otherwise, I'll tell my cousin and you'll leave with him. This? Captain Sun heard Lung Su's words and fell silent. He knew that Lung Su had a cousin who was also a powerful character. He was the sworn brother of the newly promoted Fire Wolf Gang's branch leader in the province. That was why he hesitated. Huan Huyu frowned. He didn't think that something like this would happen just because Xiaolong had offended this rash Su earlier. He didn't want to argue with these people anymore. He could see that with Lung Su here, it was impossible for them to send a helicopter. He could only ask for help from his family. After leaving the security room, Huan Hu Right found a phone at the service desk of the resort and called his family, Hidden House U. At this moment, the short robber had returned to the Hidden House U. He was holding the body of the tall robber in his arms. His face was full of grief and anger. Grandpa Yu heard that the short robber had returned. Just as he was about to ask him if he had succeeded in his mission, he suddenly saw the corpse of the tall robber in his hand. His expression froze. Shorty Yu, Right House head, that Linny is really powerful. Although he's only an Earth-class mid-peak, he killed Gao Zi with one slap and seriously injured me. I'm going into seclusion to recuperate. Whoever wants to take this mission in the future can take it. I'm not taking it. With that said, the short robber placed the body of the tall robber on the ground and quickly ran back to his courtyard to prepare for seclusion. He was a guest of the Yu family, not Old Master Yu's subordinate, so his attitude toward Old Master Yu wasn't very good. Of course, this matter couldn't be blamed on Old Master Yu. He had already told you about Lin Yi's strength. You had accepted this mission because you coveted the natural treasures for cultivation. If you died or got injured, you could only blame it on your bad luck. Therefore, this matter was in the past. The short robber could only sullenly go back to heal himself. Old Master Yu, on the other hand, was scared out of his wits. Did Lin Yi really have the ability to fight a Sky Class? He actually heavily injured a Sky Class early phase with one slap, and killed an Earth Class late phase peak with one slap? It seemed like Lin Yi had mercy on Elder Bai before. Now that it was the turn of these two disguised robbers, he didn't give them any face at all. Other than shock, Old Master Yu's heart was filled with fear. If Lin Yi was really this strong, then it wouldn't be a problem for him to wipe out the Yu family. Although he was a Sky Class master, he wasn't even as strong as the other guests. His cultivation level as a Sky Class alchemist wasn't particularly strong. He definitely couldn't mess with Lin Yi anymore. This was Old Master Yu's first thought. He subconsciously wanted to call Yu Panhu. He wanted to tell him to stay away from Lin Yi and not get killed by Lin Yi. However, the phone rang first. Hello, Old Master Yu took a deep breath and picked up the phone. Grandpa, I'm Yu Panhu, Yu Panhu said hurriedly. Grandpa, the plan from before failed. Xiaolong offended the local tyrant of the resort. As he spoke, Yu Panhu told him what happened. Let's not talk about this first. Let me ask you, how is Lin Yi so strong? He actually killed an Earth Class late phase peak master and injured a Sky Class early phase master? Old Master Yu changed the topic and hurriedly asked. This? Yu Panhu's heart skipped a beat. As expected, the two cultivator robbers were the ones sent by his family, and the ones from before were the real robbers. Thinking of this, the corner of Yu Panhu's mouth twitched. He was really unlucky to encounter this kind of thing. However, while Yu Panhu was shocked by Lin Yi's strength, he was also worried about Xiaolong's situation, so he quickly said, Grandpa, let's not talk about this first. Xiaolong is very anxious over there. Seems like something big happened. The phone he used is also Lin Yi's? Using Lin Yi's phone? Could it be that Lin Yi deliberately forced him to make this call? Old Master Yu also knew about Yu Panhu and Xiaolong's plan, but Old Master Yu was astute. He thought of the original Romantic Valley trip. With Lin Yi's participation, Lin Yi was naturally anxious to go back. In this way, this phone call might have been made by Lin Yi. It's hard to say, but with Lin Yi's participation, this matter is meaningless. Lin Yi is so dangerous. If we don't send a helicopter to get them up as soon as possible, what if Lin Yi does something bad to Xiaolong? Yu Panhu said. You're right. Old Master Yu nodded and said, then I'll send a helicopter over as soon as possible. Okay, then I'll wait here. Yu Panhu nodded. Forget it. We'll talk about Lin Yi's matter when you come back. Old Master Yu felt that the Yu family should adjust their strategy towards Lin Yi. At least before the Heavenly Elixir sect expressed their stance, the Yu family should try their best to avoid direct conflict with Lin Yi. This guy was too strong. After Xiaolong finished the phone call, it had been 20 minutes. Lin Yi didn't see a helicopter flying over. He immediately frowned. Logically speaking, with Yupanhu's execution efficiency, it should be enough to borrow a helicopter from the resort and fly over from the top of the mountain in 20 minutes. Moreover, these were all prepared in advance. Why is it so slow? Didn't you guys already arrange to rent a helicopter? Linny glanced at Xiaolong and asked coldly. P.S. Very Pure will be ending in April. Due to the plot of the ending, School Beauty's update speed will be slowed down. 12 chapters a day, but there will be no breaks. Very Pure will return to normal after the end of the book. School Beauty's physical book will be released on March 5th. Readers who like it can buy it as a memento. To be continued. Chapter 2452. I don't know. We did tell them, but who knew they wouldn't come? Xiaolong was quite worried as well. His head was covered in cold sweat. Lin Yi said that if the turtle found out that the bottle was gone, it might come looking for trouble. He wouldn't be able to escape then. Lin Yi was a practitioner and he could escape with Xinyan. Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner, so what if the turtle caught him? With that thought, Xiaolong said, why don't we run in that direction first, then call Tiger Right and ask him to find us there? That works. Lin Yi nodded. He was also afraid that the turtle would come looking for trouble. And so, they walked quickly in the direction Tiger Right pointed to. Tiger Right, on the other hand, took out Lin Yi's phone and called Boss Bai again. Master Bai, it's Xiaolong. Can you talk to Tiger Right? Xiaolong said hurriedly. Boss Bai frowned and passed the phone to Tiger Right. He already knew that the resort didn't want to send a helicopter, and he also knew the reason behind it. He thought that Xiaolong was too good at causing trouble. Boss Bai thought that Tiger Right was a good student and let him listen in on class, but he didn't expect him to be such an idiot. Boss Bai was furious and didn't want to talk to him anymore. Big Bro Kong, don't worry. The resort won't send a helicopter because of our conflict with Su Lung. I've already called for one from House U, and it should be here in 20 minutes. Just wait a bit more. Tiger Right explained after taking the phone, and then asked intentionally, is it Lin Yi who wants to harm you? Or force you? Tiger Right said this to ruin Boss Bai's good impression of Lin Yi. Boss Bai taking Lin Yi as a disciple and teaching him about elixir refining made Tiger Right very jealous. With Lin Yi in front of him, Tiger Right couldn't replace him. It was impossible for the right coiling tiger to replace him. Only by destroying Lin Yi's impression in Boss Bai's mind could he be promoted smoothly. However, Boss Bai didn't seem to care about his words at all. He didn't even look at him, much to Yu Coiling Tiger's disappointment. In fact, Boss Bai heard Yu Coiling Tiger's words. It was normal for Lin Yi to threaten Xiaolong. If he didn't threaten Xiaolong and tell him to contact the helicopter, he wouldn't be staying in the valley with him. Wasn't there something wrong with that? No, we ran into a water monster, Xiaolong said. Suddenly he heard a loud splash behind him. He subconsciously looked back and saw the big turtle rushing out of the lake again. Not good, let's go. Lin Yi grabbed Xinyan's hand and ran, looking at the turtle's angry face. He must have discovered that the small bottle was missing. Lin Yi was starting to regret not leaving sooner, waiting for Tiger Right's helicopter to come pick him up. He'd been waiting for a long time now, but Tiger Right's helicopter hadn't arrived yet. He waited for a long time, but because Xiaolong offended stunned Su, the resort didn't send a helicopter. Tiger Right's voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet valley, his words still reached Lin Yi's ears through the phone. Roar. Don't run. Stop right there. Give me back the ice crystal. The big turtle roared and chased after Xiaolong and the others. Lil Bro Yu, the water monster, is catching up. Let's talk later, get the helicopter to the north and wait for us there. With that, Xiaolong hung up the phone and chased after Lin Yi and Xinyan, sprinting away. Roar. The big turtle didn't expect these people to run so quickly. It jumped out of the lake and chased after them. Lin Yi, wait. Wait for me. Xiaolong's face was ashen, and he was shaking with fear. He was shocked to see Lin Yi and Xinyan running so fast. Lin Yi couldn't even take care of himself. He wasn't in the mood to deal with Xiaolong. Die. When the big turtle saw that the three of them didn't stop, it was sure that they had stolen the ice crystal of turtle saliva. It immediately became furious and quickly chased after them. But, as big as the turtle was, it was still a turtle after all. It couldn't crawl that fast, and so it was able to keep up with the group's running speed. It might even be a little faster than them. Just as it was about to catch up to Xiaolong, the big turtle swung its claw. It didn't hit Xiaolong directly, but the wind from the claw still hit Xiaolong's back. Xiaolong fell to the ground in a daze. Help, Lin Yi, help me. Xiaolong cried for help after falling to the ground, hoping that Lin Yi would give him a helping hand. Xiaolong endured the pain and crawled up from the ground as fast as he could. His body was pretty good normally and he did pretty well in sports back in university. But he'd been beaten up a few times today, and he hadn't eaten anything to replenish his stamina. He'd used up most of his energy and the fall made it hard for him to walk. The big turtle was getting closer and closer, and the claw was about to reach him again. Xiaolong yelled, "Stop. Don't chase me. That bottle was left by the guy in front of us. It has nothing to do with me." The big turtle laughed at Xiaolong's shameless words. "I've never seen someone as cunning as you. You hurt my child before and I said that you'll all die. I don't care who touched my turtle spit ice crystal, you'll all have to take responsibility." Xiaolong saw that he couldn't convince the big turtle, and that the claw was about to reach him. In the face of death, his desire to escape exploded, and he used all his strength to run forward. He managed to catch up to Lin Yi in a few steps, putting some distance between him and the big turtle. But it was all thanks to Xiaolong's shameless words that the turtle paused and slowed down its speed. Otherwise the turtle would have slapped him right there and then. Even so, Xiaolong didn't dare let his guard down. He knew that he was at his limit, and he wouldn't be able to continue running. He begged Lin Yi with a sad face. "Lin Yi, save me, and if you save me I'll ignore what happened between you and Xinyan, how about it? I promise I won't pursue this anymore." Xiaolong's words were still very artistic at this point. He didn't say that he wanted to cancel the engagement with Xinyan, but that he'd ignore what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. It was obvious that he was looking for an excuse to go back on his words. To be continued? Chapter 2453. How could Lin Yi not tell? But Xinyan didn't think that much at a time like this. Hearing that Xiaolong was willing to use this as a bargaining chip, she was overjoyed. She turned to Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, will you agree to it?" Lin Yi looked at the expectant Xinyan beside him. His heart skipped a beat. Xinyan's feelings were very obvious, and her words had betrayed her. But Lin Yi was getting more and more confused. Why would Xinyan care so much about her engagement with Xiaolong? Technically, it wasn't a big deal to break the engagement, was it? All right. But since Xinyan was looking forward to it, Lin Yi didn't want to disappoint her. As for Xiaolong, Lin Yi wouldn't really leave him be. After all, they were classmates. Even if Lin Yi wanted to do something to him, he wouldn't do it this way. It wasn't a good thing for Boss White if a student died during the winter tour. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't make things difficult for him. And so, Lin Yi reached out with his right hand and hugged Xinyan, pulling her against his chest. Xinyan didn't expect Lin Yi to suddenly hug her. She lowered her head shyly. Her heart was beating fast, but she didn't dare raise her head to look at Lin Yi and Xiaolong. Of course, Lin Yi wasn't paying attention to Xinyan's situation. His other hand reached out to grab Xiaolong, who was running behind him. As for Xiaolong, even if Lin Yi wanted to save him, he wouldn't let him off easy. Xiaolong relaxed a little when Lin Yi pulled him back, but the next moment, something cruel happened that he didn't expect. Lin Yi increased his speed after grabbing Xiaolong. Xinyan was in Lin Yi's arms, so she wasn't affected. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was unluckier. He couldn't keep up with Lin Yi's speed and Lin Yi dragged him forward. He fell on his butt and was dragged forward by Lin Yi. The ground of the valley was smooth and covered with ice and snow, but Xiaolong's butt still bumped into the rocks on the snowy ground. After all, no matter how smooth the valley floor was, it was impossible for there to be no rocks on it. Xiaolong was in trouble. Watch. Xiaolong's cries were especially piercing in the valley. Very soon, his butt was covered in cuts from the stones on the ground. The wounds from before were mostly healed by Miracle Dr. Kang's golden creation medicine, but now they were being cut open again, adding more wounds on top of the previous ones. But Xiaolong was in great pain, but he knew that Lin Yi was doing this on purpose. If Lin Yi could carry Xinyan, it didn't mean that he couldn't carry Xiaolong as well. Lin Yi was a practitioner after all. But it was already good enough that Lin Yi wasn't carrying him. Xiaolong was afraid that Lin Yi would abandon him, so he could only endure it. When he couldn't hold it in any longer, he looked at the big turtle chasing after him and thought of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, so he held back. Slowly, Lin Yi increased the distance between him and the turtle. Lin Yi's qigong was good, and without Xinyan and Xiaolong holding him back, he didn't need to worry about the turtle catching up. The big turtle, on the other hand, let out an angry roar as it watched Lin Yi and the others getting further and further away. It knew that it wouldn't be able to catch up. When it saw Lin Yi carrying one person and pulling another, it knew that it had to give up. There were practitioners here. It really couldn't take advantage of them. Lin Yi's guess was correct. The turtle's strength lay in defense, not offense. Even if Lin Yi was a sky class, he couldn't do anything to it. But it couldn't catch up to Lin Yi. It had no choice but to swallow this loss. It wasn't that it didn't have the ice crystal turtle's saliva. It still had some, but it was very precious. This small bottle would take the turtle tens of years to refine. This was the crystallization of its strength. It wasn't very useful to the big turtle, but it was very useful to the little turtle. The little turtle could use this to train. The big turtle still had some left, but something as precious as this was something that could increase its strength. It didn't want to give it to Lin Yi that easily, but it couldn't get it back now. There was nothing it could do. Don't let me see you again? The big turtle roared helplessly. Lin Yi heard the turtle's roar and he felt nervous for no reason. This was actually a sign of guilt. Lin Yi did take the ice crystal turtle saliva bottle, so in theory Xiaolong was the scapegoat for him. Although Xiaolong was the one who started it all, Xiaolong was the one who found the bottle, so Lin Yi still felt a little grateful towards Xiaolong. This was also the reason why he didn't abandon Xiaolong. What? Can you let me go now? That monster isn't chasing us anymore, my butt. Xiaolong was almost crying from the pain. His butt didn't seem to belong to him anymore. Lin Yi was in the middle of sprinting when he heard Xiaolong's words. Xiaolong, on the other hand, leaned backwards due to the inertia, and the back of his head hit the ground with a clang, hitting the big bump on the ground. The pain made him grit his teeth in pain. Lin Yi, you did that on purpose, didn't you? Xiaolong got up from the ground and turned around, glaring at Lin Yi. You told me to let you go. Lin Yi curled his lips, not caring. Xiaolong was angry, but he didn't let it show. Lin Yi was his savior after all, and he wasn't that ungrateful. But the more he looked at Xinyan in Lin Yi's arms, the angrier he got. It was just that Xiaolong had promised that he'd turn a blind eye to what happened between Lin Yi and Xinyan. He wanted to go back on his words when he got back, but it hadn't been that long, and he didn't have the thick skin to deny it. He could only pinch his nose and accept it. What? Can you put me down now? Xinyan's heart was beating like crazy, but she felt a little better when she remembered that they were running for their lives. Now that they were safe, she felt a little embarrassed. Okay. Lin Yi put Xinyan down. It wasn't that he wanted to take advantage of her, but that he'd forgotten that she was in his arms. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little regretful after putting her down. He'd been so focused on running and thinking about the ice crystal that he'd forgotten about the beauty in his arms. He only came back to his senses after Xinyan reminded him, but he didn't think about taking advantage of her. He could have trained while running. To be continued. Chapter 2454. Xinyan felt shy and happy at the same time when she saw the flash of disappointment on Lin Yi's face. To be honest, if Xiaolong wasn't standing there, she wouldn't have left that warm hug. The feeling of that embrace reminded Xinyan of those cold nights during military training, the days and nights they spent together in the wild training. While she was lost in thought, the sound of a helicopter came from the sky. Lin Yi let out a breath of relief. He didn't feel any danger anymore, and the turtle should have retreated, but who knew if it would come back again. Furthermore, since the big turtle was a heaven-rank spirit beast, could there be other spirit beasts in the valley? There were 2 sky-class spirit beasts in Wulonghout Mountains. Here I'm here. Xiaolong felt like he had just survived a disaster when he saw the helicopter. He waved his hands trying to get the people in the helicopter to see him. Lin Yi curled his lips and looked at Xiaolong. With his voice, the people in the helicopter couldn't hear him at all. As for him, even if he didn't wave, the people in the helicopter would be able to see him. The helicopter got closer and closer, and a ladder was pulled down from the helicopter. It was placed vertically at the bottom of the valley. Right Coiling Tiger's voice came from the loudspeaker. Big Bro Kong, get on the helicopter. Xiaolong was very excited. He subconsciously wanted to grab the ladder and climb up, but Lin Yi grabbed him back. Wait a bit, let Xinyan go first, you go last. Although Lin Yi was a practitioner, this valley wasn't something that could be climbed easily. Putting aside the fact that the cliffs were covered in snow and ice, even in the summer there weren't any footholds. Climbing up was an extremely difficult task. Lin Yi didn't have Rock Candy's amazing Qinggong, so he couldn't fly up. So Lin Yi decided to let Xiaolong go last. Otherwise this kid would just take a helicopter and escape. That would be a little fucked up. Oh? Xiaolong was a little disappointed, but he understood what Lin Yi was worried about. He really didn't want to leave Lin Yi behind. After all, Lin Yi had saved his life once, or more accurately twice. It was just that the first time Lin Yi saved his life was for self-preservation. As a result, Xiaolong couldn't leave Lin Yi behind no matter how much he wanted to. Besides, if he and Yu Coiling Tiger went back without Lin Yi, how could he explain to Boss Bai? Xinyan was a little scared as she looked at the wobbly ladder. She didn't dare go up on her own, but the ladder could only fit one person at a time. She couldn't let Lin Yi hold her up. Of course, she could also let Lin Yi protect her under her body, but she had to let Lin Yi face her buttocks. It would only make Xinyan more embarrassed. Gritting her teeth, Xinyan grabbed the ladder and climbed up. She was a strong girl. She was scared, but she held on for a while. Lin Yi wasn't worried he could catch Xinyan even if she fell. Lin Yi was confident that he could catch Xinyan even if she fell from the top of the mountain, let alone the height of the helicopter. Finally, Xinyan reached the helicopter safely. Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief. He quickly stepped on the ladder and got on the helicopter. Xiaolong, on the other hand, was the last to get on the plane. His face was pale, and he nodded with lingering fear when he saw Tiger right. "Brother Yu, there's a big water monster in the valley. It scared me." "Big water monster? What's that?" Yu Coiling Tiger paused. "Sky-class spirit beast. We almost died," Lin Yi said faintly. "Yes, a heaven-rank spirit beast?" Right Coiling Tiger was startled, and a look of horror flashed across his face. This spirit beast didn't have anything to do with Lin Yi. In fact, it was an enemy. Lin Yi didn't need to keep it a secret. As for whether or not the hidden house you would dare to provoke this spirit beast, it wasn't within Lin Yi's consideration. "If House Yu has the guts, you can go and catch it," Lin Yi said. Yu Coiling Tiger's expression was uglier than crying. "Sky-class spirit beast? Forget it. Who dares to provoke it? Besides, there's no use in catching it. It can't protect House Yu." "Oh? Sky-class spirit beasts are very precious. House Yu doesn't need it?" Lin Yi asked calmly. "Even if it's precious, you have to be alive to catch it." Yu Coiling Tiger shrugged and didn't say anything else. However, Lin Yi felt that Coiling Tiger was implying something. Golden and Mystic-class spirit beasts were very popular, but Coiling Tiger didn't care about Sky-class spirit beasts at all. He was very indifferent, which made Lin Yi feel strange. Of course, what Right Coiling Tiger said might be true. It was very difficult for a heaven-rank spirit beast to recognize a master. Even if one used a special contract to turn it into a puppet spirit beast, it would still be impossible. Comparatively speaking, it was easier to capture yellow rank and profound rank spirit beasts. What Lin Yi didn't know was that Sky-class spirit beasts were rare in the common world, but the hidden house of Yu was one of the few who knew about them. It wasn't hard for them to find Sky-class spirit beasts. If it really was as he said, one would need to be alive to catch one. The helicopter flew directly back to the resort and stopped in the open space. Lin Yi, Xinyan, Xiaolong, and Coiling Tiger got off the helicopter. Coiling Tiger gave the pilot a few instructions, and the helicopter slowly left the resort and flew back to the hidden house Yu. Xiaolong wasn't in a very good mood. None of the plans he'd come up with were executed perfectly. Not only that, but he'd also gotten himself injured all over. To him and Tiger Right, this was a classic case of losing a wife and a soldier. His fiancée was hugged by Lin Yi, and one of House Yu's underlings was dead and one was injured. This proverb was tailor-made for the two of them. The ancients were wise indeed. They could even predict the future, Xiaolong thought gloomily. Entering the resort with Wang Xinyan, Boss Bai was already anxiously waiting in the lobby of the resort. Seeing that Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan had returned safely, his furrowed brows relaxed. He had a good impression of Lin Yi, and had the intention of training him to be his successor. However, Lin Yi seemed to have some obstacles in the field of alchemy, which made Boss Bai hesitate. Boss Bai was best at refining elixirs, and his medical skills were only auxiliary. It could even be said that he wasn't as good as Lin Yi, so if Lin Yi only learned medicine, he wouldn't need to learn it. It didn't matter if Lin Yi learned it or not, but refining elixirs was very special. Boss Bai felt that Lin Yi's situation was very special, and he could only find a solution slowly. No matter what, Boss Bai didn't want anything to happen to Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, how are you? Are you all right?" Boss Bai asked, but he didn't look at Xiaolong. To be continued. Chapter 2455. Even though he was miserable, Boss Bai automatically ignored him and turned to Wang Xinyan. "Wang Xinyan, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Mr. Bai. Thank you for the trouble," Lin Yi said with a smile. "I'm fine as well." Wang Xinyan nodded. "That's good. I've already arranged the rooms. Lin Yi, you and Bai Weitua will share a room. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing will share a room. This is your room card. Boss Bai handed the room card to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. Xiaolong knew that what he did today made Boss Bai very angry. Although he didn't say it out loud, he still went upstairs with Panhu. He shared a room with Panhu, so he didn't need Boss Bai to give him the room card. Let's go back first. We'll have dinner later. There are still some activities scheduled in the evening. Take this opportunity to rest, Boss Bai said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan. And okay, Lin Yi nodded and took the elevator with Wang Xinyan. What? Don't make things too awkward with Xiaolong. In the elevator, Wang Xinyan was silent for a long time before she spoke. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't quite understand why Wang Xinyan would suddenly say something like this, but since she said it like this, she must have her concerns. What confused Lin Yi was that Wang Xinyan clearly didn't like Xiaolong. Even after this incident, her gaze towards Xiaolong was filled with disgust. Why would she plead for Xiaolong now? However, Lin Yi wasn't stupid. He thought about it again. If Wang Xinyan wasn't pleading for Xiaolong, then she must be thinking from his perspective. In other words, Wang Xinyan didn't want him to make things too awkward with Xiaolong out of consideration for him. But why? Xiaolong wasn't a practitioner. His backing was only the hidden Houseu. Today, Lin Yi wasn't even afraid of beating up two masters from the hidden Houseu. Why would he be afraid of offending the hidden Houseu? Chapter 2456. Why did you turn around right after I put on my clothes? Xinyan felt that it was too much of a coincidence. Lin Yi scratched his head. He didn't know how to explain it. Lin Yi bro didn't peek at Xan Yen sis from the mirror. Han Jingjing said without raising her head as she fiddled with the tablet in her hand. Lin Yi wanted to strangle Han Jingjing. She didn't even raise her head. How did she find out? Only then did Xinyan notice that there was a mirror behind Lin Yi. That meant that Lin Yi could still see her in the mirror. She glared at Lin Yi. What's going on? Xinyan's face twitched as she stared at Lin Yi. What the hell? Lin Yi coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. Bai Weitua and he Meiwa took the room, and I didn't have anywhere else to go, so I came. Oh. Xinyan said with an ong as she sat on the bed, feeling a little awkward as well. Han Jingjing just had to sit there and continue drawing after that, leaving the two of them with nothing to talk about at all. Are you training? Xinyan asked, breaking the awkwardness. Sure. Lin Yi nodded and sat on the bed. Xinyan sat beside Lin Yi quietly. After some thought, she pulled down the jacket she'd just put on, revealing the thermal underwear underneath. Lin Yi could see her perfect body, and Xinyan didn't have anything to be embarrassed about. He'd already seen her naked, so what was there to be afraid of now? Lin Yi closed his eyes and started channeling the second stage of the art of dragon mastery, and Xinyan cooperated fully. She sat by Lin Yi's side, not moving an inch. The two of them had gotten to this point and things were getting out of Wang Xinyan's control. The only thing she could do was to help Lin Yi train as soon as possible. She wanted Lin Yi to reach a whole new level, and as long as they weren't afraid of the Sky Elixir sect, she and Lin Yi could be together. Xinyan, can I hug you? Lin Yi realized that he was a little distracted today. He kept getting distracted when he was training, and he smelled Wang Xinyan's fragrance. He wanted to take the next step. Xinyan froze. She hadn't expected Lin Yi to make such an unreasonable request. But Xinyan couldn't very well say no. She glanced at the nonchalant Han Jingjing not too far away. Then he snorted softly with a nasal voice. It was unknown whether he agreed or disagreed. Lin Yi smiled when he heard Xinyan's whimper. He reached out and pulled Xinyan into his embrace. Xinyan's body trembled visibly. Her breathing became a little rapid. Although Lin Yi had hugged her during the military training before, that was when he was asleep and it was very cold in the middle of the night. Lin Yi seemed to be doing it on purpose. Although Lin Yi was doing it for cultivation, in the end, was his lust more important or his cultivation more important? Wang Xinyan didn't know. Lin Yi could feel Xinyan's body stiffening, and he didn't want to push his luck. He didn't do anything inappropriate after hugging Xinyan, and started to train like he was supposed to. Lin Yi's attitude made Xinyan sigh in relief and happy. It seemed that Lin Yi was really training, and he wasn't blinded by lust and trying to take advantage of her. Xinyan was quite happy that Lin Yi was motivated to train. After all, the sooner Lin Yi reached the top of the Sky Elixir sect, the sooner the window paper between the two of them would be broken. Otherwise, Xinyan wouldn't have agreed to anything before that. She didn't want Xiaolong to contact Kong Mingming and make a move on Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was closer to him now, Xiaolong had personally promised not to pursue the matter. Of course, he had no choice but to ask for help from Lin Yi, but Xiaolong wouldn't go back on his word so soon. In the blink of an eye, it was dinner time. Boss Bai asked the service desk to call every room to inform the students to go to the dining hall for dinner. The call was picked up by Han Jingjing. After answering the phone, she put down the tablet and said to Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan, "Lin Yi bro, Xinyan sis, the service desk is calling for dinner." Okay. Lin Yi came back to reality from his training and let go of Xinyan. Xinyan was a little nervous and shy before, but Lin Yi didn't do anything to embarrass her, so she relaxed. It was a little comfortable being hugged by Lin Yi, and she almost fell asleep in the end. She opened her eyes in a daze and sat up. Let's go eat then. The three of them walked out of the room and they saw Bai Weitua and Himeiwa walking out of the room. Himeiwa's face was still red, and they didn't know what the two were doing in the room. Bai Weitua saw Lin Yi and quickly ran over. "Lin Yi bro, kid, you and Meiwa are together?" Lin Yi looked at Bai Weitua's excited face and asked in a low voice. Not yet, but I kissed her," Bai Weitua said excitedly. "I didn't think that there would be that kind of show on the cable TV in this resort. Meiwa and I couldn't help ourselves after watching it for a while, but Meiwa didn't let me go further." "Haha," Lin Yi patted Bai Weitua's shoulder with a smile. "Teacher Bai agreed to the two of you?" "Grandpa didn't disapprove of it." "I'll just watch it," Bai Weitua said. Lin Yi didn't say anything. Himeiwa gave Lin Yi the feeling that she was very smart. Bai Weitua wasn't stupid, but he was a bit more down to earth. He didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse for him to be with Himeiwa. Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger also came out, but Xiaolong was dressed up. Not only did he take a shower, his hair was combed neatly, and he changed into a new set of leather clothes. What surprised Lin Yi was that the injuries on his face were all healed. But Lin Yi was only slightly surprised. With a pill bottle like Right Coiling Tiger beside him, getting some quick healing pills wasn't a problem. One level 2 pill was enough to completely heal all the injuries on Xiaolong's body. "Lin Yi, thank you so much for what you did in the valley." Xiaolong walked over and took the initiative to say to Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at Xiaolong. He wanted to say that Xiaolong was stupid. But he didn't say it. In fact, Xiaolong came to show goodwill to Lin Yi because he had no other choice. After he went back and met with Right Coiling Tiger, he confirmed that the two cultivator robbers were masters sent by the hidden houseu. One was an Earth-class late phase peak and the other was a Sky-class early phase. Of the two, one was dead and one was injured. Lin Yi's strength was quite amazing. To be continued. Chapter 2457. Xiaolong didn't want to die. His brother might be the last disciple of the Sky Elixir sect's fifth elder, but he wasn't an elder yet. If he wanted Kong Ming to help him, he'd have to wait until Kong Ming finished his apprenticeship. Offending Lin Yi now wasn't a good thing. As a result, Xiaolong expressed his gratitude to Lin Yi so that Lin Yi wouldn't come looking for trouble when he got back. "Does your word count in the valley?" Lin Yi asked faintly. "Valley? What did I say?" As expected, Xiaolong started acting like he didn't know what to do. Being friendly was one thing, but it was a matter of principle. There was no one else in the valley and it was fine if he said it, but he couldn't say it in front of you Coiling Tiger, lest he embarrass House Kong. Nothing. Lin Yi had guessed that Xiaolong would go back on his word, but he didn't care. Even if Xinyan and Xiaolong were to talk about marriage, Lin Yi wouldn't put him in his eyes. Lin Yi wouldn't be afraid of a second or third time if he dared to mess with House Kong once. Xinyan heard that Xiaolong was going back on his word. Even if it was within her expectations, she still wasn't happy. Xiaolong didn't keep his word. Dinner was eaten in the restaurant of the resort building. There were many small buildings and villas in the resort. People from different majors and classes were basically living separately, so the restaurant didn't seem crowded. A few tables of food were prepared for the students majoring in medicine. After dinner, it was time for the resort's entertainment. The reason why this resort was famous wasn't because of the ski resort, but because there was a deserted village halfway up the mountain. Exploring the deserted village at night was one of the most popular activities of the resort. No one knew how many years this desolate village had existed. There were no signs of human habitation, and the houses in the village were built in an ancient style. However, most of them were made of stone, so they had not been damaged over the years. There was a huge memorial arch at the entrance of the village. After many years of wind and rain, its color had already faded. Under the moonlight, it looked especially eerie and terrifying. Of course, if one were to say that these barren buildings were terrifying, the most attractive part was that there were ghosts in this deserted village. As for whether it was a real ghost or just a gimmick for the resort to attract tourists, no one knew. Some of the tourists said that they really saw something unclean when they were in the exploration vehicle at night, while others said that it was just a scary atmosphere that caused them psychological pressure. But no matter what, this place was already famous. Moreover, during the night visit, visitors had to take the exploration vehicle provided by the hotel. Visitors were strictly forbidden from trespassing into the deserted village, and visitors were not allowed to get off the vehicle and leave during the tour. These might be tricks used by the resort to scare tourists to make money. After all, riding in the expedition car required a fee. If tourists drove or walked to the deserted village to explore, how could the resort make money? This kind of relatively scary entertainment activity. Normally Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. It's just that these past few years, although the rumors about the barren village were scary, Boss Bai wouldn't agree so easily. However, none of the tourists who took the exploration vehicles to explore had any problems. They all returned safely. Therefore, Boss Bai had basically guessed that it was probably a trick for the resort to make money and attract tourists. There were actually no ghosts in the desolate villages. The exploration car was a small 9-seater minibus, and other than the driver and co-driver, there were only 7 people in the car. Lin Yi, Han Jingjing, Xinyan Xiaolong, Tiger Wright, and their 2 underlings were all in the same car. Naturally, Lin Yi didn't want to go with them, but Tiger Wright and Xiaolong shamelessly got in the car. Lin Yi couldn't just kick them off, could he? He had no choice but to let them get in the car. But what Lin Yi didn't know was that Xiaolong and Tiger Wright getting in the car had caused him quite a bit of trouble. The driver of the exploration car received a call from Dai Su before he got in the car. The driver of the exploration car naturally knew what kind of status Dai Su had. He was just an employee, and Dai Su could be said to be half the owner of the resort. How could he not listen to Dai Su? "Days bro, is there anything I can do for you?" The driver asked carefully, not knowing why Dai Su was calling him at this time. "I have a grudge against the passengers in your car." Dai Su had already seen Xiaolong and Tiger Wright get in the car, so he asked for the driver's phone number and called him. "Ah?" The driver froze after hearing Dai Su's words. "Lower your voice, don't talk. Just listen to me and do as I say." Dai Su lowered his voice and ordered the driver, "Do you understand what I mean?" "I understand." The driver didn't dare to go against Dai Su's words. He quickly calmed himself down and pretended to be nonchalant. "Okay, later when you bring the people in the car to the abandoned village, bring them to a secluded place and find an excuse that the car broke down. Then you get out, come back and leave them there." Dai Su said. "That?" The driver froze. This wasn't a good idea, was it? If he left these people in the abandoned village and in a secluded place at that, how would he explain it to them? As the driver of the exploration car, he had driven between the resort and the abandoned village for many years. He knew very well that there were ghosts in the abandoned village. It wasn't a rumor but a real ghost. It was just that the ghost had no intention of hurting people, but it was also under the condition that the resort did not disturb the ghost. The route that their car took was carefully chosen to avoid touching the ghost as much as possible. This was also the reason why they had been peaceful all these years. The unclean things that the tourists saw weren't actually hallucinations or psychological effects. In fact, sometimes they could see the existence of a ghost somewhere along the route. "Did you hear me talking to you? You don't want your job anymore, do you?" Dai Su saw that the driver wasn't talking and immediately got angry. "Just tell me if you want it or not. If you don't want it, I'll find someone else." "Okay." The exploration car driver had no choice but to bite the bullet and agree. He had no choice but to agree. The job of the exploration car driver in the resort was to go out every night. It was easy and the salary was high. He didn't want to lose this job. But seeing a group of innocent tourists being left in the abandoned village and possibly scared out of their wits, the driver couldn't help but sigh. No matter what, he couldn't go against Dai Su. Chapter 2458. After smoking a cigarette, the driver got in the car. He couldn't find a reason for the car to break down, so he refueled the car as usual. The driver didn't refuel the car, leaving only enough gas for a one-way trip. There was basically no gas left once they reached the abandoned village. Abandoned village? Haunted? Lin Yi looked at the brochure in his hand, thinking that this was most likely the resort's way of attracting tourists. Lin Yi couldn't say that he didn't believe in ghosts, but at least Lin Yi hadn't seen one yet. Even when he was exploring the tomb, he didn't see any so-called ghosts. Of course, it wasn't as if these things didn't exist. Lin Yi had read in some ancient texts that when a practitioner trained to an unimaginable level, they'd be able to cultivate a primordial spirit. The primordial spirit could leave the body, and even after the physical body died, it could still survive. However, this was different from ghosts. This was a great power of the practitioner, and there was a fundamental difference from ordinary ghosts. The car started slowly. Lin Yi's car, whether it was intentional or not, became the last car in the entire team. After refueling, it followed the team in front of it down the hill. The mountain road was very rugged. It wasn't a regular mountain road but the resort's own training path. It wasn't open to the public, so there weren't even any street lights. One could only rely on the car's searchlight to see the road clearly. As for the two sides of the road, there was dense forest. If it was a coward, it would be especially creepy. Lin Yi wasn't afraid of this kind of mountain night at all. When he trained at West Star Mountain, it was scarier than this, and Woolen Hate Mountain Range wasn't any better, so Lin Yi didn't care. Han Jingjing, on the other hand, didn't seem to care about what was going on around herself. She'd been playing with her tablet the whole time, not even bothering to look out the window. Lin Yi was speechless. This girl was way too carefree. Xinyan, on the other hand, was obviously nervous. She didn't look out the window. Unlike Han Jingjing didn't have time to look. She didn't think that the ghosts outside the window were as fun as refining pills. Xinyan, on the other hand, was a little scared. What ghosts? It's just a rumor, a way for the hotel to make money. Xiaolong couldn't help but speak up after seeing Xinyan's fear. What the hell? We are medical students. How can we be afraid of ghosts? It was just a trick to trick children. I dare to laugh at ghosts in front of their faces in the cemetery, ha ha. Xinyan frowned at Xiaolong's words. Even if it was the hotel's way of making money, there was no need to say it in the car, was there? There was a chauffeur in the car. How could he be happy when he heard that? As expected, the driver of the exploration car felt sorry for the people in the car, but after hearing Xiaolong's arrogant words, he felt a bit guilty. That trace of guilt in his heart suddenly vanished. Isn't this a scam? Didn't he not believe it? I'll let you guys have a look. You can't say that there is no soul, Lin Yi said. You can't say that everything that can't be explained by science isn't science. It can't be explained now, but it might be explained in the future. Didn't you think you saw a ghost when you saw a car a few hundred years ago? What Lin Yi didn't say was that cultivation and pill-making were impossible in the eyes of normal people. It was just that there was a chauffeur in the car, so he didn't make it that clear. Hey Lin Yi, what do you mean by that? Xiaolong curled his lips. I think you're scared. If you're scared, get off the car now. We're going to the abandoned village. You don't have to go. Lin Yi didn't bother with Xiaolong anymore. He turned his head and ignored him. Xiaolong thought that he was better than Lin Yi in terms of theoretical knowledge. He was overjoyed, thinking that he would regain his heroic image in Xinyan's heart. He was beaten up by the robbers and Su Lingzi, and then bullied by the turtle. Why would he be afraid of ghosts? From Xiaolong's point of view, he'd act bolder and more fearless, and Xinyan would think that he wasn't that useless after all. The car slowly drove into the abandoned village. The huge arch at the entrance shone with a sad light under the moonlight, and Xinyan subconsciously shrunk back. Xiaolong saw this and couldn't help but say, it's just a broken arch. It looks like a soccer goal in the daytime. It's not that big of a deal. But after entering the village, the car Lin Yi was in changed its direction, going in a different direction from the rest of the cars. It went into a small road at the fork in the village. Why isn't it going the same way as the cars in front? Lin Yi noticed the problem and asked. Oh, every car has its own itinerary. There'd be no point in exploring if they were all gathered together, and we'd lose the fun of exploring the village. The driver had already thought of an excuse beforehand, and so he explained it when Lin Yi asked. Is that so? Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi didn't see the car in front, but at least the two cars in front were going the same route, one in front and one behind. They didn't split up, so Lin Yi doubted the chauffeur's words. I say, Lin Yi, are you scared? Just say it if you're scared, there's no need to find excuses. Xiaolong heard Lin Yi's words, and felt that Lin Yi was getting more and more scared. Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, and he didn't even flinch when facing the robbers and the turtle, but that didn't mean he didn't have a weakness. Fear of ghosts had nothing to do with strength level. Many people would maintain a respectful heart in front of the unknown. If Lin Yi was especially sensitive to things like ghosts, then it was reasonable for him to be afraid. Lin Yi wanted to ask a few more questions. but since Xiaolong had already said so, Linny didn't bother. They were within the range of the resort, so there shouldn't be any big problems. He just felt that there was something wrong with the route the car was taking, so he asked. But then again, even if there was a problem with the route, Linny didn't care. So what if there was a problem? The chauffeur wanted to rob them? That was simply courting death. After the car entered the fork, the road became a lot more bumpy. The car may have been modified, but it was still difficult to walk on this kind of road. Why is this road so hard? Linny was even more confused. If every car had a different route, then Linny could force himself to believe it, but to say that this road was this hard, Linny didn't believe it. To be continued? Chapter 2459. There would be an expedition car almost every night. Even if there was only one car on this road, it would be a smooth road every day. It would not be as bumpy as it was now. The only explanation was that this road was not used often. It was a last-minute decision by the driver of the car. However, what was the purpose of him doing this? Did he want to take them to a deserted place to rob them? However, as the driver of the resort, if it was a robbery, the police should be able to solve the case easily. Linny also believed that he would not be so stupid. Who would go out to explore at night with a lot of money? If there were other purposes, Linny could not figure it out. It was the first time they came to this resort, and it was the first time they participated in this deserted village adventure. They did not know the driver in front of them at all. What purpose could he have? After passing through this part of the road ahead was much easier to walk. However, although the road here was easier to walk than before, Linny could see at a glance from the traces of the soil on the ground that cars usually did not travel here at all. This was a dirt road with no wheel marks on it. It could be said that this should be a road that exploration cars usually did not travel on. Why did they travel this way today? The searchlights on both sides of the exploration car began to work. This allowed the passengers in the car to clearly see the scene outside the car window. This was an extremely gloomy village. There were dilapidated houses, dry ancient wells, some buildings without signs, and tomb-like hills. Everything looked particularly gloomy and terrifying. Even the driver of the exploration car could not help but shiver at this moment. He drove the car here according to Su Lung's instructions. However, he had not been on this road for 4 or 5 years. The last time he came was during the day. Even though he had a map in his hand, he was a little afraid to get out of the car and run back alone. The environment here was too scary. Suddenly, the car was extinguished. The driver of the exploration car glanced at the fuel gauge and found that the car had no more fuel. He took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry. The car seems to have some problems. The fire has been extinguished. Let's take a look around here first. I'll see if I can repair the car first. If I can't, I'll call for help." The car is broken? Linny was even more suspicious. The car had been perfectly fine before, so how could it have broken down? "Yeah, I'm sorry." The exploration car driver replied nervously. In his eyes, Linny was the most meticulous person in the world. Previously, he had already discovered many flaws. At this time, he was probably starting to suspect something. But now that it had come to this, he had no other choice. He could only bite the bullet and continue carrying out Dae Su's plan. "Linny, you can't be that timid, right? Since the car is broken, let him fix it first. Let's get out of the car to take a look and explore." Xiaolong was eager to show off his bravery. As far as he was concerned, deserted villages and ghosts were all fake. It's written in the tourist brochure of the deserted village. Tourists are not allowed to get off the bus without permission to avoid accidents, Linny said calmly. He was not afraid, but he felt that what happened today was strange. "Xinyan, did you see that? How cowardly were some people. Such a person. He can't be a boyfriend," Xiaolong said to Xinyan. He didn't mention a name, but everyone knew who he was talking about. What's the use of being a practitioner? Not everything can be solved with fists. If you don't even dare to walk in the dark, you won't be able to leave your house in the future, right? It's fine if you guys get off. Just don't go too far. "It's not convenient for me to repair the car with you guys in the car," the driver said cooperatively. Linny looked, the driver already said that. "Why are you still in the way?" Xiaolong asked. "All right then, let's get off and take a look." Linny was even more suspicious of the driver's goal. Why couldn't he repair the car when the tourists were in the car? The tourist brochure clearly stated that tourists weren't allowed to get off the bus halfway, but the driver was chasing them away. Linny wanted to see what the driver was up to. After a moment of silence, he smiled. "All right, let's get off and take a look." Xiaolong looked at the dangerous look on Lin Yi's face. Keep acting, keep acting. Let's see if you'll wet your pants when we get off the bus and explore the deserted village. Han Jingjing put away her tablet with a nonchalant expression and stood up to get off the bus. Xinyan didn't want to, but there was nothing she could do about it. She felt a lot more at ease with Lin Yi by her side. As for what Tiger Wright said about Lin Yi being afraid of ghosts and not daring to get out of the car, Xinyan naturally didn't believe it. It was complete nonsense to her. Lin Yi wasn't even afraid of robbers and sky-class turtles. Why would he be afraid of ghosts? A gust of cold wind blew past as they got off the bus. Xinyan couldn't help but shiver. She moved closer to Lin Yi but didn't dare get too close. She didn't want to go too far in front of Xiaolong. Seeing how Xiaolong had been targeting Lin Yi, Xinyan knew that Xiaolong hadn't given up on her yet. What he said at the bottom of the valley was probably just empty words. Hey, it's so exciting here. Let's go over there and take a look? Xiaolong pointed at a shady place not far away. We've got nothing to do anyway. Let's see if there are any ghosts. We're just nearby. It's not good to go too far, is it? Xinyan was a bit hesitated. Girls had an instinctive fear of dark places like this. Of course, Han Jingjing wasn't on the same level as her. Han Jingjing wasn't afraid at all. She looked around the place. Lin Yi didn't move, but Lin Yi's divine sense was focused on the car. Lin Yi felt that there was something wrong with the driver, so Lin Yi paid attention to him after he got off the bus. Brother Lung, it's me? The driver of the exploration car carefully dialed Lung Su's number to report the latest situation. Did you do what I told you? Lung Su asked. I did, Lung bro. I brought them to a secluded place, but too scary here. I don't dare go back alone. The driver said carefully. Drive back when they get off. Can't you just leave them there? Lung Su said. To be continued. Chapter 2460. But the car's out of gas. I didn't fill it up. The driver said carefully. Idiot. Then wait in the car until the sun rises. Naturally, Su wouldn't send a car to pick him up at this time. He wouldn't be able to achieve his goal of scaring Xiaolong and the others. As for whether the driver would be scared out of his wits, that wasn't Su's concern. Hello. Hello. Bro Days? The driver looked at the phone and sat down in the driver's seat, depressed. He lit a cigarette and tried not to look out of the window. This area was the most haunted area, and it was also listed as a key danger zone on the resort's map. Drivers and tourists were strictly prohibited from coming to this area. Not to mention at night, even during the day it was best not to come. The driver of the exploration car knew that there were unclean things nearby, so he naturally did not dare to look around casually. Lin Yi was an Earth-class mid-phase peak, and he had the ability to eavesdrop on the driver's phone. Naturally, he could hear everything clearly in this quiet night. Lin Yi's lips curled into a cold smirk. So the driver was under Rash Su's orders, abandoning them in the wilderness. It seemed like this disaster was caused by Xiaolong and Tiger Wright, and he, Xinyan and Han Jingjing were just suffering along with them. It was obvious that Su wanted to use this method to get revenge on Xiaolong and Tiger Wright. But after understanding this, Lin Yi was relieved. Su's goal was nothing more than to scare Xiaolong and Tiger Wright, but one of them was a doctor and the other was a refiner. Unless there really was a ghost here, it wouldn't be able to scare them. Since Xiaolong wants to go, then let's go. It's pretty cold here and we'll freeze if we don't exercise, Lin Yi said to Xinyan. Lin Yi felt that something was wrong after he said that, because it didn't seem to come from Lin Yi's own will. It was as if someone had instigated Lin Yi. Or perhaps there was a voice calling Lin Yi, telling him to come quickly to the dark place in front. Lin Yi's willpower was very strong and firm. In a short moment of absent-mindedness, he discovered the problem. However, Lin Yi wasn't sure what the problem was, just like that sudden sentence just now. Was he being blinded by greed or was he just curious himself? Let's go take a look then. Xinyan agreed, much to Lin Yi's surprise. She'd been very timid before, but now she seemed to be very curious. Lin Yi, look, even Xinyan is braver than you, Xiaolong said. Lin Yi was confused and didn't have the mood to argue with Xiaolong. He was about to say something when he saw Xinyan following Xiaolong, Tiger Wright, yellow hair and purple hair into the shadows of the village. Big bro Lin Yi, don't you think something's wrong here? Something doesn't feel right here? Han Jingjing turned around and looked at Lin Yi with a serious gaze. Something's wrong? Lin Yi glanced at Han Jingjing. What's wrong? Jing Jing can't describe it, but there seems to be something strange about this place. Jing Jing feels that although this place is dark and eerie, there seems to be an invisible magic that makes people want to investigate it. Han Jing said with a frown as she looked at the pitch-black darkness not far away. Then do you want to go investigate? Lin Yi's heart tightened. Han Jingjing had the same feeling? Did Xinyan and the others have the same feeling? I want to, but I'll listen to big bro Lin Yi, Han Jingjing said. Lin Yi looked at Han Jingjing and took a deep breath. He had this feeling before, but it was because of his strong willpower that he woke up. But Han Jingjing's mind was terrifyingly calm. She was able to notice something was wrong even in a situation like this. This made Lin Yi more and more confused about Han Jingjing's background. This girl was a genius with an abnormally high IQ. Her thoughts were also abnormally sharp and she was extremely calm. Seeing Xinyan leave with Xiaolong and Tiger right, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This didn't fit Xinyan's personality. She didn't like being too close to Xiaolong and Tiger right, but now she didn't wait for him and Han Jingjing, instead following them into the shadows of the barren village. This didn't make sense. Xinyan wait? It would have been fine if Han Jingjing hadn't said anything, but she had the same feeling. He was pretty sure that there was something wrong with this place. He subconsciously called out to Xinyan. It's dangerous here, don't go far. Lin Yi's voice made Xinyan stop in her tracks. She turned around, confused, and her heart skipped a beat. Why did she follow Xiaolong and the others here? She wanted to turn back, but Xiaolong started to talk. Lin Yi, if you're scared, just say it. If you don't go, don't delay others from going. Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi, mocking him. Xinyan wanted to turn back after hearing Lin Yi's words, but she didn't know why, but after hearing Xiaolong's words she turned around and walked forward. It was as if there was some kind of magic in front of her, making her lose her mind again. Let's go take a look, be careful. Lin Yi hesitated but still followed. Lin Yi didn't know if it was because of Xinyan, or if it was because of the demon in his heart. Oh okay. Han Jingjing nodded and followed Lin Yi. Come on, come on, come on. Lin Yi couldn't shake the feeling that there was a magical voice calling out to him, but he couldn't hear anything when he tried to listen carefully. All of this seemed so strange, and the dark place in the distance seemed even more ghastly and terrifying. This feeling made Lin Yi feel uncomfortable. There was something strange about this place. A haunted village in theory should be fake. It was a way for the resort to attract tourists, but at this moment, Lin Yi felt that the rumors weren't just groundless. The few of them walked further and further away. That shadowy place that didn't seem very far away seemed abnormally far away when they walked, abnormally unreachable. The little mound was so close, but no matter how much they walked they couldn't reach it. It was as if the group was walking and the dirt mound was walking as well. No matter how fast they walked, no matter how far they walked, they couldn't reach the dirt mound. But no one noticed anything out of the ordinary. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat and he came back to his senses. Shock flashed in his eyes. This was something that couldn't be explained with common sense. Lin Yi had encountered something like this before. To be continued. Chapter 2461. It was that time in Zhang Liju's graveyard, that seemingly endless path, that bottomless abyss. Everything was so strange and it was similar to today's situation. Lin Yi suddenly turned around and was even more startled. What was behind them was no longer the way they'd come. The exploration car was nowhere to be seen, and behind them were intersecting paths and dilapidated cottages. There were messy stone tablets and statues of some unknown things, but there was no way back. Lin Yi bro, you noticed it too? Han Jingjing asked all of a sudden. Oh, you noticed it long ago? Lin Yi looked at Han Jingjing a little surprised. Yeah. Han Jingjing waved the tablet in her hand and said, our GPS coordinates haven't changed, but the scenery around us is completely different. In other words, we might have encountered the legendary ghost wall, and we've been going around in circles. Lin Yi looked at the tablet in Han Jingjing's hand, a little taken aback. This girl always used scientific methods to fight against things that weren't scientific, and she'd find a way to solve them. This surprised and delighted Lin Yi. Where's the exploration car? Lin Yi asked. Right here. Han Jingjing pointed at the coordinates on the tablet. I recorded it when we got off the car. So you're saying we've only walked less than half a kilometer? Lin Yi looked at the map on Han Jingjing's tablet, very surprised. That's about it. Han Jingjing said. You're quite cool-headed, using the GPS to calculate our location at a time like this. Lin Yi praised. Because I have Lin Yi bro with me. With Lin Yi bro here, I won't be scared anymore. I can study these things in peace. Han Jingjing said seriously. The two were talking when a creepy laugh came from the front. Lin Yi stopped in his tracks subconsciously and raised his head to look ahead. A white light flashed in front of Xinyan and the others, and a misty shadow appeared out of nowhere. The shadow did not look like a human, nor did it look like a naturally formed fog. It was more like the soul of some kind of monster. Coupled with the creepy laughter, it didn't take a genius to figure out that this was the so-called ghost of the abandoned village. Another blood-curdling scream rang out. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. The voice didn't come from the ghost but from Xiaolong. Xiaolong sat on the ground, his face ashen as he shivered. His pants were wet and it was evident that he'd pissed himself. Right coiling tiger wasn't as useless as him, but he was shaking as well. This unknown terror made his throat go dry. He didn't know what to say. He was starting to regret listening to Xiaolong and coming down to explore. There really was something unclean in this village. Yellow and purple hair were practitioners, and although they weren't as messed up as Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger, their faces weren't too good either. This kind of strange and unexplainable thing, even strong practitioners didn't know how to deal with it. Who's there? Don't play tricks. If you don't show yourself, I'll kill you. Purple Hair was a mystic class master after all, and he was a high and mighty existence in the common world. He still had some confidence facing this monster. Kikik. The ghost formed by the mist suddenly laughed, and the laughter made people feel uncomfortable. Suddenly, Purple Hair felt like his throat was being strangled. He let out a ha-ha sound wanting to say something but he couldn't. Although, under everyone's strange gaze, a bang sound rang out. Purple Hair seemed to have been hit by a huge force, and he shot out from where he stood, smashing into a stone tablet a dozen meters away, making a loud bang. Purple Hair spat out a mouthful of blood, clearly heavily injured. He struggled to stand up, but he didn't have the strength to do so, and after swaying a few times he fainted. Yellow-haired and Right Coiling Tiger's faces were filled with shock. When the purple-haired man said those words, the two of them even felt that someone was trying to scare them. But now it seemed like that wasn't the case. Purple Hair was a mystic class master, and to be able to heavily injure a mystic class master, what kind of master was that? The strangest thing was that the two of them didn't even see how the other made the move, and from what they could see no one made a move but Purple Hair was sent flying out just like that, smashing heavily into the stone tablet. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Lin Yi frowned at the evil ghost in front of him, and his guard was raised to the maximum. Of course Lin Yi didn't think that it was a ghost. When he was exploring the ancient tomb, wasn't Boss Yu also pretending to be a ghost and killing people? At this moment, Xiaolong was stunned, and he wasn't too surprised that Purple Hair was sent flying. He just sat on the ground, expressionless. What made Lin Yi curious was that Wang Xinyan didn't say a word from start to finish, just standing there. Although she didn't turn around and Lin Yi couldn't see her expression, Lin Yi could see from her body that she wasn't afraid. Because Wang Xinyan stood very steadily, not trembling and not stumbling. This made Lin Yi suspicious. When did Wang Xinyan become so brave? When they were in the exploration car, Wang Xinyan was very resistant to getting off. How did she become a different person in such a short amount of time? Wang Xinyan? Lin Yi cursed inwardly. Something was wrong. Wang Xinyan must have fallen into some kind of magical state right now. After Lin Yi's shout, Wang Xinyan didn't react at all. She didn't even turn around to look at Lin Yi. This situation made Lin Yi even more certain that Wang Xinyan must have been bewitched by something in front of her. Lin Yi took a deep breath and started to compress a pure chi bomb in his hand. This intangible thing was also the hardest to deal with. Lin Yi didn't know if normal moves would be effective against it, but from the way Purple Hair was sent flying, this thing in front of him was definitely not simple. The most important thing was that Lin Yi couldn't use his golden finger to clearly see the strength of the thing in front of him. In other words, the person in front of him was either a very strong physical practitioner or he wasn't. The moment he attacked Purple Hair, Lin Yi still couldn't feel his strength. In other words, he wasn't a physical practitioner. To be continued. Chapter 2462. If that was the case, then the result was a little hard to accept. The answer was that this thing wasn't human at all. Or rather, it wasn't even a spirit beast. Lin Yi could use his golden finger to check the strength of spirit beasts, but Lin Yi's golden finger didn't have any reaction to this misty thing. So Lin Yi didn't try the fiery 8 trigrams palm anymore. He started compressing the chi bomb and prepared to give this guy a big move. You. What are you? Yellowhair's voice was trembling as he asked carefully. Kikik. The monster laughed again, but it didn't answer Yellowhair's question. Instead, it seemed to be saying to Wang Xinyan, "Follow me." With that, the monster slowly floated into the distance. Wang Xinyan, on the other hand, took a step forward and followed behind the monster. Wang Xinyan wasn't a practitioner, and her walking speed was limited. But the monster seemed to know her speed, and it floated in front of her at the same speed. Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi saw Wang Xinyan follow the monster and his heart jumped. He yelled again. But what disappointed Lin Yi was that Wang Xinyan didn't seem to hear Lin Yi at all. She continued to follow the monster slowly. Jingjing, wait here with Tiger Right and the others. I'll go take a look. Lin Yi said with a serious expression. The reason why he didn't let Han Jingjing follow was because if Lin Yi used the chi bomb later, it would be very difficult to protect Wang Xinyan. He wouldn't be able to take care of Han Jingjing, so leaving her with Tiger Right and the others was the safest choice. Moreover, from the current situation, it could be seen that this monster-like thing seemed to be interested in Wang Xinyan. As for Tiger Right, Xiaolong Yellow Hair and Purple Hair, they didn't have much interest in her. Although it sent Purple Hair flying, it didn't die. It seemed that it only had one goal, and that was to capture Wang Xinyan. With that thought, Lin Yi quickly followed with big strides. However, the true chi bomb in his hand did not stop for even a moment. It was being compressed at a rapid speed. Lin Yi did not know what the enemy was, nor did he know how big the true chi bomb would be in order to kill it, so he could only try his best to compress as much true chi as possible, as long as he retained some of the true chi that could be used to repair his meridians after being injured. Lin Yi followed behind Wang Xinyan. The ghost in front of them didn't seem to care about Lin Yi. Its attention was all on Wang Xinyan. It turned a blind eye to Lin Yi's actions. Of course, it could also be that it saw Lin Yi, but it didn't care about Lin Yi at all. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi discovered that Han Jingjing and the others behind him had disappeared, and he himself had arrived in an unfamiliar environment. It was as if the path he walked and the scenery he passed by were changing. What the hell are you? Where was he taking Xin Yen? If you don't say it, then I won't be polite. Lin Yi felt that the true chi bomb in his hand was almost done, so he said to that thing. However, that misty thing didn't seem to care about Lin Yi at all. It continued to lead Wang Xinyan forward in its own way, as if it didn't care about Lin Yi at all. Lin Yi frowned and suddenly increased his pace. He suddenly pulled Wang Xinyan behind him, and threw a true chi bomb over, exploding on top of that misty thing. Boom dash, a loud sound. This was the sound of the energy explosion. When Lin Yi released the true chi bomb, he used his true chi to separate Wang Xinyan. Lin Yi wouldn't die from the explosion, but if Wang Xinyan was hit by it, then she definitely wouldn't be able to survive. Following this loud sound, the misty thing exploded into pieces, turning into small wisps of mist that spread out. This situation made Lin Yi let out a deep sigh of relief. It didn't matter if the thing in front of him was a human or a ghost, it was finally killed. Who? Lin Yi was about to turn around. Just as he was about to check on Wang Xinyan, he heard an eerie laugh. Jiji. As Lin Yi looked over in horror, the misty thing that had turned into wisps of mist actually gathered together again, forming into that thing that didn't look like a human or a ghost. The laughter came from that thing. You're fine? Lin Yi looked at the misty thing in front of him in shock. Kid, I didn't think you'd have some skills. It's been thousands of years. You're the first person that can blast me apart. The thing finally took the initiative to talk to Lin Yi. Before, it didn't even bother talking to Lin Yi, Xiaolong or Tiger Yu. What are you? Why did you take my friend away? Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. This thing wasn't afraid of the true chi bomb. You don't need to know what I am. I took her away for a reason. After a short moment of silence, the thing spoke again. Go, I won't hurt you. You're a ghost? Lin Yi's brain was working furiously, trying to think of a solution. This thing said that it wouldn't hurt him, but it was only because it saw how strong he was. If it were Purple Hair, it would have sent it flying with a slap. Of course, Lin Yi's strength was only a little surprising in the eyes of this thing. It wouldn't hurt him, but that didn't mean it would let Wang Xinyan go. But this time, the thing didn't reply to Lin Yi, continuing to lead Wang Xinyan forward. Wang Xinyan's eyes were still empty, as if she had lost her mind. Lin Yi called out to her, but there was no response. Lin Yi wanted to stop Wang Xinyan from leaving, but he was afraid that this thing would retaliate. After thinking for a while, Lin Yi searched for ways to deal with ghosts in TV shows. Normal methods didn't work on this thing, so Lin Yi had to find another way. Lin Yi didn't watch TV shows usually, and after thinking hard for a long time, he finally remembered a ghost hunting movie he watched with Mengyao and Yushu. It said that ghosts weren't afraid of attacks, but they were afraid of light and fire. In the past, there was also a saying that starting a fire could chase away small ghosts. Linny thought about it, and this was the only way he could use it. Other Maoshan Taoist arts, Linny didn't know a thing. Thinking about this, Linny quickly followed, and suddenly condensed a fire element alchemic fire in his hand, grabbing at the misty thing. Arg! The misty thing cried out in pain, and it didn't care about leading Wang Xinyan anymore. It floated far away in an instant. It floated a few meters away from the alchemic fire in Lin Yi's hand before stopping. Its voice was full of shock. Elixir refiner? Chapter 2463. That's right. Lin Yi naturally wouldn't admit that he wasn't an alchemist, and it seemed that he had made the right bet. This thing was really afraid of alchemic fire, and it didn't seem to be just a normal kind of fear. Its previously calm voice was now filled with fear. Lin Yi's words made the other party fall silent. After a while it said, "Even if you are an alchemist, this is my territory. Without my permission, you will never be able to take her away, including your other companions. They will all get lost here and die." "What do you mean by these words?" Lin Yi asked without batting an eyelid. In fact, Lin Yi was overjoyed. He knew that this thing was starting to give in. It didn't make a move, nor did it say anything too extreme. It only said that even alchemists couldn't leave its territory. It's simple. I'll let you go, but she has to go with me. Although the thing didn't clearly say who she was, Lin Yi knew that she must be Wang Xinyan. That's impossible. Lin Yi didn't even give it a chance to bargain and directly refused. Then you will be trapped here until you die. I'm leaving. The thing said after a moment of hesitation. Do you think that you can leave? If you want to fight to the death, then I don't mind. Lin Yi once again condensed alchemic fire in his hand. During the conversation and the silence, Lin Yi had already begun to use the art of dragon mastery to recover the physical strength that he used when compressing the true chi bomb. Your physical strength is limited. I don't believe that you can keep chasing me with alchemic fire. The thing was obviously not stupid. It said calmly, "Before, what kind of martial technique did you use? You must have used up a lot of your true chi, right? There shouldn't be much left now." "Is that so?" Lin Yi's lips curled into a mocking smile, and he immediately released his true chi. That's impossible in such a short time. You actually recovered 70 to 80% of your physical strength. How is that possible?" The ghostly thing screamed in horror. Although this is a blessed land for cultivation, the density of the Zhen Qi here is gradually thinning. Even if you were here, it would be impossible for you to recover so quickly. This is impossible, absolutely impossible. Maybe it's impossible. That's not what you say. It's the truth. Lin Yi smiled faintly, then said, "The speed at which I recover my true chi is this fast, so if this continues, it's hard to say whether you or I will die." That damn thing fell silent again. Obviously, it had tacitly agreed with Lin Yi's words. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in such a situation. "Now can we talk?" Lin Yi asked again. "All right." That damn thing was annoyed by Lin Yi's tone. Although he agreed to talk to Lin Yi, he still added, "If I didn't exist in the form of a primordial spirit, you're just a small mid-earth class alchemist. You wouldn't even be qualified to carry my shoes." There's no if. Lin Yi was not annoyed. He just shrugged and said, "If I wasn't an alchemist, I wouldn't be able to let you talk to me as an equal." That's right, there's no if. That damn thing was slightly stunned. Instead, he said, "The victor is king. This is an unchanging principle since ancient times. If I didn't, forget it, let's not talk about this." "You're right, you do have the right to talk to me now." "All right, let's talk. Do you decide to fight to the death or let us go?" Lin Yi asked. "It's absolutely impossible for me to let you go." That damn thing said decisively, "I've waited for so many years, finally this opportunity. I don't have time, the aura of heaven and earth here is getting thinner and thinner. I can't wait any longer. If I wait any longer, my primordial spirit will slowly dissipate." Primordial spirit? This was the second time Lin Yi heard this damn thing mention this name. Could it be that this damn thing in front of him was really a trace of a super powerful cultivator's soul left after his death in ancient times? Lin Yi had read in some anecdotes that some cultivators could guarantee that their primordial spirit would not be destroyed when they died, and one day they could rebuild their body or take over someone else's body, but there was no confirmation of the truth of this matter. Because in the current cultivation world, the highest master was the Heaven Stage Master. Above that, Linny really hadn't seen it, even little Miss Rock Candy might not know about it, so for the things mentioned in the anecdotes, Linny really didn't take it seriously before. But now, hearing this damn thing mention it, Linny's heart moved slightly. "You are a primordial spirit?" Linny asked. "You know about primordial spirit?" That damn thing was obviously stunned. "I heard that some high-level cultivators can guarantee that their primordial spirit will not be destroyed when they die, and one day they can rebuild their body or take over someone else's body. Is that true?" Linny said what he knew. "More or less." That damn thing didn't deny it. "You want to take over someone else's body?" Linny looked at Wang Xinyan, and his expression changed slightly. He suddenly thought of an extremely terrifying possibility. That damn thing was a little speechless at Lin Yi's words. "You think too much. Let's not talk about the fact that she is not a cultivator, she is just a mortal. I would choose you to take over someone else's body, not her. Besides, taking over someone else's body is a trick of the demon sect. I just want to protect my primordial spirit and rebuild my body one day." "I see." Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief and said, "Then why are you looking for her?" "I found a special aura on her body." The ghostly thing said, "With this aura, I can speed up my cultivation. Right now, the heaven and earth spirit chi here is very thin. My cultivation speed is far from enough to replenish the daily consumption of my primordial spirit. In other words, I'm living off my primordial spirit, and if this goes on for too long, my primordial spirit will become unstable and my soul will dissipate." Lin Yi's face changed a little at the words. He didn't think that this damn thing's senses would be this sharp, able to discover Wang Xinyan's secret. Lin Yi thought that this secret wouldn't be easily discovered by other cultivators. After all, Lin Yi wasn't the only cultivator around Wang Xinyan. There were other cultivators around her, but none of them had discovered it. Now that this damn thing had discovered it, Lin Yi's face darkened a little. "It looks like you've discovered this secret as well?" That damn thing saw the look on Lin Yi's face, and knew that Lin Yi probably knew about it as well. "That's right. You recovered your chi so quickly just now because of this strange fragrance?" School Bell's Bodyguard is on sale now. It's on Amazon, Dangdang and Taobao. Readers who like it can buy it for their collection. To be continued. Chapter 2464. Lin Yi didn't say anything. He didn't deny it, nor did he admit it. No, even if there is such a fragrance, it is impossible for you to recover so quickly in this place where the heaven and earth spirit chi is so thin. No, definitely not. The ghostly thing denied its previous judgment. "Don't think about these useless things. First, are you going to let them go or not?" Lin Yi asked. "Let them go?" After the ghostly thing said these two words, it suddenly didn't say anything. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi saw that the ghostly thing was silent and frowned. "Let me ask you something," the ghostly thing suddenly said. "What?" Lin Yi asked. "Nothing, forget it." The ghostly thing didn't ask again. "What do you mean?" Lin Yi was somewhat puzzled. "I can let you go, but you have to agree to a condition of mine." The ghostly thing suddenly put forward its own condition. "Why should I agree to your condition?" Lin Yi asked. "Just as you said, although you want to fight to the death, you won't be able to kill me in a short period of time, and I won't be able to kill you. Although you can continuously recover your strength and true energy, it will take you some time to kill me." That ghostly thing said slowly, "Although I'm afraid of your alchemic fire because it will consume the energy of my primordial spirit, it won't be able to kill me in a short period of time. In any case, I'll be able to fend for myself in a few more decades anyway. If you don't agree to my conditions, then we'll fight to the death. I believe that you can recover your physical strength and true chi, but your friends and the one in front of you won't live long without eating. When the time comes, you will leave alone and your friends will die." Lin Yi was somewhat speechless, but he didn't doubt the ghostly thing's words. This ghostly thing didn't need to deceive Lin Yi about these things. "Moreover, if you agree to my condition, I will give you some good things in return. Furthermore, if you agree to my conditions, I'll give you something good in return." Seeing that Lin Yi didn't say anything, the ghost began to tempt him. Anyway, those things were basically useless to it, so it might as well take them out to sell a favor. "What is it?" Lin Yi asked after pondering for a moment. "You come with me. I'll take you there to have a look," the ghostly thing said. "All right." Lin Yi nodded his head and agreed. Now that he could condense his Dan flame, he wasn't afraid of this ghostly thing deceiving him. Moreover, it seemed like this ghostly thing needed his help, so it wouldn't joke about this kind of thing. With that, the thing floated forward with Lin Yi and Wang Xinyan following close behind. Xinyan's eyes were still empty as if she was possessed, but Lin Yi was relieved. This ghostly thing probably didn't have any ill intentions towards Xinyan for now. They walked forward for about 400 to 500 meters. It wasn't very far, but the scene in front of them suddenly changed. In theory, they should be able to see the situation here from the previous place, but Lin Yi couldn't. Clearly, the environment here was under the control of this ghostly thing, and it used some kind of camouflage spell. "It's here," the ghostly thing said calmly. Lin Yi walked over and lowered his head. He found a skeleton on the ground. The flesh had long since decayed, and it looked like it had been there for a long time. Beside the skeleton there was a small bag. Lin Yi didn't know what the small bag was made of, but it didn't rot or break, and was in perfect condition. "Is it this?" Lin Yi pointed at the small bag on the ground and asked. "Yes, this is a practitioner who accidentally broke into this place to steal something and I killed him. This is his relic," the ghostly thing said. "Relic?" Lin Yi bent down and opened the small bag. In the bag Lin Yi saw two things. One was an incomparably large spirit beast core, and Lin Yi could feel the enormous amount of energy within it as soon as he touched it. The amount of energy was at an unimaginable level, much more than the spirit beast cores that Lin Yi had obtained before. This surprised Lin Yi. "Spirit beast core?" "Yes." The ghostly thing said proudly, "This is what he stole from me, this core. You just need to know that it's not a normal core. Keep it, it has great use, don't waste it." Lin Yi originally wanted to collect it and make a profound chi necklace with other spirit beast cores, but this ghostly thing said that it was a great treasure, so Lin Yi hesitated. Therefore Lin Yi asked, "If I use it to make a profound chi necklace, is it considered a waste?" "Extremely wasteful." The ghostly thing seemed to be very angry after listening. "A profound chi necklace, only 5 heaven-rank spirit beast cores are enough." Hiss, Lin Yi sucked in a breath of cold air. "Only 5 heaven-rank spirit beast cores? Why does it sound like heaven-rank spirit beast cores are very worthless?" This also reflected a problem, and that is, the spirit beast core in Lin Yi's hand must be beyond heaven rank, so what level of strength would it be? "Okay, don't ask so much, you don't need it for the time being, just keep it." The ghostly thing seemed to not want to explain too much to Lin Yi and just said so. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded. "The heaven rank peak late phase master is a poor bastard, there's only a fragment of the map in the bag, I don't know if it's of value to you." The ghostly thing pointed at the bag on the ground and said, "A heaven rank peak late phase master? You killed him?" Lin Yi looked at the bones on the ground in shock and his heart ached. If he didn't use his Dan fire to suppress this ghostly thing, he might really be nothing in its eyes. "And dead, just a poor bastard," the ghostly thing said. "This is it, take a look and see if it's okay. If it's okay, then promise me one thing." Lin Yi hesitated, but still silently found the fragment of the map in the bag, but after seeing it, Lin Yi was slightly shocked. This fragment of the map was very familiar to Lin Yi, he even had 2 fragments like this in his house. This fragment of the map, the one he got from the secular house use auction, and the one he got from the shark's stomach should be the same type of fragment. He didn't think that he would find another one here. However, Lin Yi didn't know the specific use of this fragment of the map, but since the secular house you valued it so much, it must have some value. To be continued. Chapter 2465. However, in Lin Yi's eyes, the common house use position had obviously dropped a lot. They weren't as mysterious as before, so the value of this map was naturally lowered by Lin Yi. This was also why Lin Yi kept them in the drawer to collect dust and didn't study them. But now that this map had appeared beside the skeleton of a Sky-class late-phase peak master, it proved that this map still had some value. A Sky-class late-phase peak master didn't bring anything else, but a map was enough to prove this point. No matter what, there was no reason for Lin Yi to let go of such a good thing. Although he didn't know what these 2 things could be used for, Lin Yi still decided to keep them. "What conditions do you have?" Lin Yi looked at the thing and asked. "Promise me first or not." The thing said. "If you don't say anything, how can I promise?" Lin Yi frowned. "If you want me to die, would I still die? That won't be possible. The conditions that I've set out will guarantee that all of you will be able to leave safely." You won't have to pay anything and it won't cause any substantial harm or loss to you. The ghostly thing said, moreover, it's just a piece of cake for you. Now that you put it like that, I'm a little confused. What conditions are you talking about? Tell me. Linny was very puzzled. Why was this thing stuttering? Why couldn't it just say the conditions? This is very important. You have to promise me first before I can say it. The thing said firmly. Okay. Linny was a little helpless. If it's really as you said, and your conditions are really nothing, and it won't cause any harm or loss to me and my friends, then I can promise you. But if it's not as you said, then the promise is invalid. Lin Yi was a person who took promises seriously, and he didn't easily promise things to others. And if he promised, he would find a way to do it. Since this darn thing wanted Lin Yi to guarantee first, Lin Yi naturally added such an additional condition. Haha, how refreshing. The ghostly thing laughed and suddenly pounced on Lin Yi. Lin Yi turned pale with fright. He was just about to condense his pill fire to fight against this ghostly thing, but he hadn't condensed his pill fire yet. Thus a huge change occurred. What happened next caused Lin Yi to be indescribably horrified. After the ghostly thing rushed towards Lin Yi, it suddenly shrank into a straight line and entered Lin Yi's body. Lin Yi's first thought was that he had been possessed. However, even though he was shocked, he didn't notice anything strange. He was still himself. Even his thoughts had not changed. It seemed that he had not been possessed. However, where did that damn thing go? If he didn't possess me, then why did he disappear after entering my body? Just as Lin Yi was in shock, suddenly the ghostly thing's voice was heard again. Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough for your kindness. I will definitely repay you in the future. I didn't expect this. Lin Yi was slightly stunned, but then his expression changed. Because the way this ghostly thing spoke was the same as the way he and Jiao Lao conversed. It was transmitted directly to the mind through thoughts, and this ghostly thing was doing the same now. Didn't that mean? Did it run into my jade pendant? Thinking of this, Lin Yi suddenly turned pale with fright. He subconsciously entered the space of the jade pendant, but when he saw it, he was immediately dumbfounded. At this moment, that ghostly thing seemed to be enjoying itself, staying in the space of the jade pendant. Although it only occupied a small corner in Lin Yi's eyes, it was so dazzling, stimulating Lin Yi's nerves. This is my jade pendant. How did this thing come in? Since when can my jade pendant allow strangers to enter and leave freely? What the hell is going on? How did you come in? What do you want to do? Asked Lin Yi in shock. Haha, this place is much better than that girl. I didn't expect this. I'm going to sleep here first. You don't have to care about me, just pretend that I don't exist in the future. The ghostly thing said excitedly, when I wake up, I will give you benefits. You want to live here for a long time? The corner of Lin Yi's mouth twitched twice. And didn't you agree to my conditions? It's just a little effort from you and it won't cause harm or influence to you and your friends. I did what I said. The ghostly thing said. Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Well, I'm going to sleep, goodbye. With that said, the ghostly thing didn't wait for Lin Yi to answer. It shrunk into a small ball and hid in the corner of the space of the jade pendant. Hey, you wait first. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're occupying my territory now. Why don't you explain how you came in? There was no sound. The ghostly thing really did what it said and went to sleep directly. Lin Yi's words were equivalent to saying nothing. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't know what to say because it was useless. Sighing helplessly, Lin Yi turned to look at Jiao Yazi and said, Jiao Lao, what did it do? How did it come in? How would I know? It came in just like that. Jiao Yazi shook his head. This space is yours, not mine. I'm just an avatar of my primordial spirit. Primordial spirit? You're also a primordial spirit? Lin Yi was stunned and asked. It seems so, but I'm not too sure. I've already said that a lot of my memories haven't been unlocked. So, there are a lot of things that I can't explain. Jiao Yazi said, however, it's obvious that this thing can come in because you instructed it. As for how you instructed it, I'm not too sure, but it doesn't matter. It shouldn't have any malice towards you. Lin Yi nodded. If this ghostly thing had malice towards him, it wouldn't have waited until now. Moreover, it had always been easy to discuss with him. This made Lin Yi slightly relieved. Everything would have to wait until this ghostly thing woke up. Well, I don't know when it will wake up. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This space hasn't been condensed yet, but it already came in. It's really strange. It's in the form of a primordial spirit. It's different from ordinary things. In fact, it's also your primordial spirit that entered the space. Your body is actually still in the outside world. Jiao Yazi explained. So that's how it is. Lin was a little surprised. I also have a primordial spirit? Isn't it only after reaching a certain level that one can cultivate a primordial spirit? Your mental cultivation method is special. Jiao Yazi said. The school bell's personal expert, text, welcome readers to log in. Read the full text. Chapter 2466. Chapter 2472 Secret Service. They were all shocked. Then, if I accidentally die, can my primordial spirit be preserved? Lin asked. I don't know. You can try, but you won't be able to live if you die, Jiao Yazi said. Lin was speechless. Where am I? Lin heard Xinyan's surprised voice all of a sudden. Lin hurriedly came out of the jade pendant space, but he saw a completely different scene. The barren village was still the same barren village. The skeleton on the ground was still there, and the small bag that Lin emptied was still there. However, the scene behind him had completely changed. Not far away, Han Jingjing, Right Coiling Tiger, Xiaolong, Yellow Hair and Purple Hair were all there, and they could faintly see the lights of the expedition car in the distance. This place had completely returned to normal, and it was no longer a hallucinatory state. Xinyan, on the other hand, was looking around with a confused expression on her face. She let out a breath of relief when she saw Lin standing right beside her. Xinyan, are you all right? Lin hurriedly asked. I'm fine. Xinyan shook her head, a little confused. Lin, I remember getting off the car, but I don't remember anything after that. How did we end up so far away? Why are there skulls on the ground? Xinyan was a medical student. After all, she was a little scared by the skull, but not to the point where her legs went weak. It's okay. We encountered a ghost wall and couldn't get out. Now everything is over. Lin said, let's go. Let's go back. Wall hitting ghosts? Xinyan's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't remember anything from before, and it seemed like nothing good had happened. And haha, but it's nothing. It's all in the past now. Lin didn't want to explain too much to Xinyan in case she overthought things. After all, Xinyan had lost her mind before, and she didn't feel much of the horror. All right. Xinyan nodded, not wanting to stay in this damn place. Han Jingjing and the others were also very surprised. Previously they saw Lin walking away and suddenly disappeared. Now they could see Lin again. They were a little surprised. Lin and Xinyan walked over. Xiaolong was still sitting on the ground, his face still ashen. Right Coiling Tiger, on the other hand, was looking at the sudden change in scenery with a bit of surprise and confusion. Where's that ghost? Yupan, who glanced at Lin. He was scared away by me. Lin was unwilling to explain further. He could not tell Pan who about the jade pendant. In fact, until now Lin still hadn't recovered from the shock. The jade pendant had always been his biggest secret. Other than himself, only Jiao Yazi knew about it. How did this damn thing know? It was a little unbelievable. The scariest thing was that it could enter and live there. Lin felt very helpless. Scared away? Yupan, who blinked, you scared it away. Yeah, that thing was scared of the core fire. It ran away as soon as I started the core fire. You could have scared it away too, Lin said. Then why didn't you say so earlier? Yupan, who was speechless. He wouldn't have been so scared if he'd known earlier. I didn't test it out earlier, Lin said. All right, let's go back. Your purple-haired follower should be dead soon, right? He's fine. I gave him a small recovery pill. His wounds are all external, and he'll be fine after we control it. Yupan, who answered Lin honestly. The situation before had scared him to death. If it wasn't for Lin, they might not have been able to walk out alive. Plus, old man, you had told them that Lin could hurt even sky-class masters. Yupan, who was very afraid of him. Xinyan, sis, are you okay? Han Jingjing looked at Xinyan up and down, a little surprised. Xinyan didn't look scared at all. It seemed that there was some kind of inside story behind this. I'm fine. Xinyan smiled. She was indeed the least frightened of the group, and hadn't seen the thing from the very beginning. She only woke up when the thing entered Lin Yi's jade. Oh, that's good then. Han Jingjing nodded. Xiaolong got up from the ground and looked at Lin Yi and Xinyan in silence. He blushed a little awkwardly. It was his idea to get out of the car and explore this place, but he was the first one to be scared out of his wits. It was Lin Yi, the one he'd been mocking all this time, who was the first one to rush in when Xinyan was in trouble. It was obvious who was the stronger one here, and Xiaolong was embarrassed. He didn't dare act cool in front of Lin Yi anymore. The group walked in the direction of the adventure car in silence. Suddenly, a skull flew towards Xiaolong from the sky. Xiaolong had just been scared out of his wits, and even though Lin Yi said that he scared the ghost away, Xiaolong still hadn't recovered from his shock. Suddenly, a skull came flying at him, scaring him out of his wits. Ah! Xinyan had been walking beside Lin Yi with her head down when she heard Xiaolong scream. She jumped in fright and looked up to see the skull flying towards them. Ah! She subconsciously jumped into Lin Yi's arms. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't scared. He wasn't scared of that thing that was beyond sky class, so why would he be scared of a flying skull? But with a beauty in his arms, Lin Yi was naturally happy to let nature take its course. He hugged Xinyan and said, "Don't be scared, it'll be fine, meow." A cat's cry broke everyone's fear. When the skull came closer, Xiaolong saw that it wasn't a freaking flying skull at all. It was clearly a cat that had somehow managed to push the skull of a skeleton onto its head from who knows where. However, this cat's color was black, so it wasn't particularly clear in the dark. It couldn't be seen from a distance. If one didn't look carefully, they would really think that it was a flying skull. Fuck. You scared me to death. Xiaolong panted and rubbed his chest. Yupan, who didn't know what to say, he wouldn't have been scared if it weren't for Xiaolong's reaction. Xinyan, on the other hand, was blushing as she tried to escape from Lin Yi's embrace, but Lin Yi was holding her so tightly that she couldn't break free. Lin Yi, haha, I'm sorry, I was scared too, I couldn't help but hug you tight. Lin Yi let go of Xinyan awkwardly and laughed. Yes, please. Chapter 2467. Xiaolong's face darkened. He didn't want to mess with Lin Yi right now, but Lin Yi hugging Xinyan right in front of him wasn't something he could accept. But it was his own fault for mistaking the black cat for a skull, scaring everyone. That was why Xinyan jumped into Lin Yi's arms, and why Lin Yi could take advantage of the situation. He couldn't blame anyone else for that. But Xiaolong still said sourly, Lin Yi, you don't look that brave. A skull scared you. Oh, the skull didn't scare me, it was your scream that scared me, Lin Yi said faintly. Don't you know there's a saying that scaring people can scare people to death? With that, Lin Yi picked up the black cat from the ground. He didn't know when this skull was put on the cat's head, but the upper half of the skull was almost dead on the cat's head. It was obvious that this cat had been wearing this skull since it was young. In that case, the unclean thing that the tourists saw here was most likely this black cat. After all, this ghost that surpassed sky class didn't have the time to scare the tourists. It couldn't even train itself. It would only come out to scare people away if they accidentally entered its territory. The other routes, in theory, didn't see ghosts, so it was most likely this black cat. Xiaolong didn't think that his sarcasm towards Lin Yi would result in him getting outsmarted by Lin Yi. He wasn't happy, but there was nothing he could do. They walked back to the car, only to find that the door was closed. Lin Yi went up and knocked on the door. Who is it? Who is it? The driver was very scared in the car, and he didn't dare look far. He clearly saw that Lin Yi and the others didn't go far, but they disappeared in an instant. It wasn't hard to imagine how scared he was. The car was out of gas and couldn't move forward. He could only lie in the car and wait for the sun to rise. He didn't dare look around in case he saw something unclean. He didn't care if Lin Yi and the others lived or died. If they died, then so be it. He could just say that Lin Yi and the others didn't listen and got off the car without permission. The resort wouldn't take too much responsibility. The driver was about to fall asleep when he heard a knock on the car door. His scalp went numb and his heart raced. Was it a ghost? Lin Yi was pissed off at the driver's words. This guy was obviously sent by that idiot Su to mess with them. If it wasn't for the fact that he was an elixir refiner and made an agreement with that damn thing, they would have all died here today. Xiaolong didn't know that this place was dangerous. It was understandable for him to encourage everyone to get off the car. After all, he thought that the barren village was just a tourist attraction. If he knew how scary it was, he probably wouldn't have come down himself. This driver, on the other hand, had no regard for human life. Xinyan had almost died, so there was no way Lin Yi would let this driver go so easily. At that thought, Lin Yi picked up the black cat in his hand and stuck it on the window of the driver's seat. The driver was terrified, but he could only suppress his fear and raise his head to see what was going on. But when he raised his head, the driver's eyes widened and his mouth dropped wide open. He saw a skull outside the driver's window. Moreover, within the skull, there was a pair of glowing green eyes staring at him. Oh my god. ####%. Ghost. The driver screamed in terror and lay on the steering wheel, not moving an inch. Linny put the cat down casually, and under the shocked gazes of the others, he pushed the door open and got into the car. Linny, why are you scaring him? Who's going to drive if you scare him to death? Xiaolong frowned, not understanding Lin Yi's actions. There's no gas in this car. He won't be able to drive even if he's alive, Lin Yi said faintly. No gas? Xiaolong blinked. Isn't it broken? He told Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger about what happened and harumphed. Isn't this all your fault? Xiaolong was a little embarrassed, but he still defended himself. If I didn't stand up for him, you would have stood up for him when he was harassing Xinyan. How can you blame this on me? If I stood up for him, that idiot Su would have turned into an idiot. I wouldn't have given him the chance. Linny glanced at Right Coiling Tiger faintly. I'm sure Coiling Tiger knows this very well. There's a blue-haired guy in his house, and I blew his brain up with pure energy. You Coiling Tiger shivered involuntarily, forcing a smile. Alright Linny, what's done is done. Kong bro was just being nice. He's not as strong as you, so it's good enough that he could do this. Xiaolong on the other hand felt a little awkward. He turned around to check if the car was really out of gas. When he saw the driver, he realized that the driver had no heartbeat. Linny, he's scared to death. Oh, so what if he's dead? Linny said nonchalantly. Linny didn't need to hide anything in front of Xiaolong and Right Coiling Tiger. There were too many people related to House Kong and House Yu that had been crippled or killed by Linny, so there was no need to hide anything. There weren't any other students present, anyway. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing were people that Linny trusted, so he wasn't worried that they'd tell anyone. The corner of Xiaolong's mouth twitched. Indeed, the driver of the exploration car was dead and he deserved it. Xiaolong was actually quite happy about it. It was a relief to him. He'd been holding back a lot of anger before, and when he found out that he was tricked by the driver, he felt even more depressed. Now that Linny had helped him vent his anger, it was the same as helping him vent his anger. What do we do now? We can't just stay here forever, can we? Xiaolong's interest had waned. He'd thought that Linny was afraid of ghosts, but Linny wasn't afraid at all. He'd made a fool out of himself, so naturally he didn't want to stay here any longer. But before Linny could say anything, his phone rang. Linny took out his phone and looked at the caller ID. He picked it up immediately. Hello, Mr. Bai. Latest update, please. Chapter 2468. Cultivators Market. Linny, where are you guys? How come I can't see your car? We've already visited the village, but you're nowhere to be seen. Where's that car? Boss Bai's nervous heart finally relaxed after hearing Lin Yi's voice. Everything was fine. Mr. Bai, I was just about to call you. We've run into some trouble here. Lin Yi started lying through his teeth. Earlier, the driver of our car seemed to be possessed. He drove the car onto a small road, and it wasn't the same road as the car in front of us. After that, the car stopped for no reason and the driver screamed. Then there was no more movement. We just checked and it seems like the driver is dead. What? The driver is dead? Boss Bai was shocked. How did he die? I think he was scared to death. Linny said. Did he see something scary? How are you guys? Are you guys okay? Boss Bai quickly asked. We're okay, but we don't know where we are and we don't dare to act recklessly. Linny said. Alright, don't move yet. I'll look for the people from the resort. This car seems to have a GPS system. Boss Bai said. Alright. Linny nodded. Linny hung up. Xiaolong and Tiger Right hesitated, but didn't say anything. They weren't interested in exposing Lin Yi for scaring the driver to death. This was something the driver deserved, and to them if they were to say anything bad to Lin Yi, they'd probably be the next ones to die. After Boss Bai hung up the phone, he immediately found the security team of the resort. When Captain Sun of the security team heard that the driver of the exploration car was scared to death, he was also shocked and turned to look at Dae Su. Dae Su wanted to scare Xiaolong and Tiger Right, but he didn't expect the driver to be dead as well. His face paled. Although he couldn't be held responsible for this matter, the exploration car driver had died while serving the resort. The resort would at least have to compensate a large sum of money. At that time his uncle would definitely scold him. Thinking of this, Dai Su didn't reflect on his wrongdoings. Instead he shifted his hatred onto Xiaolong and Tiger Right. Of course he hated Lin Yi and Xinyan who were in the same car. He had to take revenge. But now it couldn't be realized for the time being. He had to think of a way to calm things down quickly. If the news of the resort scaring someone to death were to spread, who would come here to play? The matter was resolved quickly, and the resort used the GPS to locate Lin Yi and the others. They then sent another car to pick them up. The whole process was quick and the body of the driver was taken away. What happened next had nothing to do with Lin Yi and the others. As for whether or not the resort would pay the driver's family a large sum of money, that was unknown. After returning to the resort, Han Jingjing and Xinyan were exhausted. Lin Yi hadn't fully recovered yet, so they went to bed early. Bai Weitua, on the other hand, didn't come back until the middle of the night. Lin Yi and the others were in trouble, but it didn't bother the other students. After all, they didn't experience it themselves. Lin Yi and the others had returned safely, so they went to play. They didn't come back until the early hours of the morning. They went skiing the next day, but Lin Yi, Xinyan and Han Jingjing weren't as excited. They only went for a walk, and Tiger Yu and Xiaolong didn't even change their skis and skis. They weren't in a good mood either. In the afternoon, everyone took the bus back to school. The winter outing was officially over. On the way back it could be said to be smooth sailing. There were no car accidents or robberies. Soon they arrived at the school. At the same time Lin Yi received some good news. It made him feel better, but it was unrealistic to say that he wasn't depressed at all. That thing was residing in Lin Yi's jade. Lin Yi couldn't chase it away, nor could he communicate with it. He could only ignore it for now. Most importantly, Lin Yi couldn't ask others about this strange thing. He couldn't ask Old Pai or Faubert, because the secret of the jade couldn't be easily revealed to others. When Lin Yi returned to school, he received a call from Han Xiaopa. "Boss, I have good news," Han Xiaopa said directly after the call connected. "Oh? What good news?" Lin Yi's heart tightened. "In the middle of this month, there will be a practitioner's market in the nearby Mount Elephant Heart," Han Xiaopa said. Han Xiaopa said, "Although the scale isn't large with only a few loose practitioners and reclusive family members participating, these people might have good stuff in their hands. Who knows, they might even have the materials you need, boss." "That's great." Lin Yi had been looking forward to the cultivator's market for a long time. He had Han Jingjing make so many small qi gathering pills in preparation for the cultivator's market. Lin Yi also had a bunch of random things he had won from the Hidden Houses Summit, so he could trade them for things he needed in the market. "Boss, if you're going to participate, I'll tell the organizer to reserve 2 spots, Han Xiaopa said. "Of course I'm going," Lin Yi said. "But is there anything I need in the market?" "Hard to say, but I heard there's pure topaz for sale," Han Xiaopa said. "Aside from me, other people need pure topaz?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be surprised. "I'm not sure, but it's said that when heaven-class masters temper their weapons, they use some good jade and pure topaz is one of them. Of course it's not the only one, so if boss needs it, it's not hard to get it. After all, not every heaven-class master needs this kind of pure topaz," Han Xiaopa explained. During this period of time he had been listening to these things. He had already learned about the uses of pure topaz, colored steel and blue crystal powder. So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded. "Then tell me, what price do I need to pay to get pure topaz?" "That's hard to say. It depends on how much pure topaz there is and what the person wants. If they don't need a material urgently, they just need to trade something of a higher value. If someone needs a material urgently, even if the material's value is lower than pure topaz, they'll still trade," Han Xiaopa said. Chapter 2469. Shu's Plan. "What I have in my hands are the things we got from the Hidden House Summit as well as some pills. Are these enough?" "More or less. The people who went this time were all solo practitioners, and there were also some guests or elders from the hidden houses and small sections. These people aren't that knowledgeable." "Boss, these things you have are good stuff," Han Xiaopa said after some thought. Han Xiaopa thought for a moment and said, "But just in case, it's best to prepare 1 or 2 especially valuable items in case of emergencies." "Something really valuable?" Lin Yi frowned. What did he have that was really valuable? He wasn't a disciple of some hidden house or sect, and he didn't have their resources. Linny couldn't think of anything. It's hard to say. Some people need this, some people need that. I'll bring some good stuff too, but I don't know if they'll be of help to you. Han Xiaopo was speaking the truth. Everyone had their own favorites. If the good stuff in your eyes wasn't useful to the practitioner, then the practitioner wouldn't trade it with you. Okay, I'll prepare, Linny nodded. After saying goodbye to Xinyan by Weitua and the others, Lin Yi and Han Jingjing drove back to the villa in the Shuoshang district. He just parked the car when he saw two beautiful figures in the yard. Yao Yao Shu, why are you guys here? Lin Yi asked as he got out of the car. It's snowing and Shu told me to build a snowman. Meng Yao smiled when she saw Lin Yi. You're back? Yeah, I'm back. Lin Yi nodded and was about to say something when a snowball came flying at him. Lin Yi dodged it and smiled bitterly. Shu, you still use hidden weapons? Man, it's boring. Shield bro, can't you just dodge? It's so boring. Yushu wanted to hit Lin Yi's head with a snowball, but she didn't expect Lin Yi to react so quickly. Then I'll stand here and you can start again? Lin Yi laughed. Forget it. Shield bro, help us build a snowman. Yushu said as she bent down and started sweeping the snow from the corner of the yard. Before you came, Shu and I would build snowmen in the yard every winter when it snowed. Meng Yao explained with a smile. There's someone from the management company clearing the snow outside, but we have to clear the snow inside ourselves. Shu and I made snowmen out of it. Lin Yi nodded, a little wistful. He'd been with Meng Yao and Yushu for almost a year in the blink of an eye. It was already the end of the year, and spring hadn't even started when he'd first arrived. Jingjing, you want to come too? Yushu asked after some hesitation. Sure, Han Jingjing agreed happily. And so, the four of them started building a snowman in the yard. There wasn't much snow in the yard, so it didn't take long for the four of them to finish. The three entered the villa together. Lin Yi went to cook while Meng Yao, Yushu and Han Jingjing chatted in the living room. Getting Han Jingjing on her side was something Yushu thought of on the spur of the moment. Wang Xinyan seemed to have something she couldn't say. Yushu could tell that Wang Xinyan liked Lin Yi, but she rejected Lin Yi and didn't tell Meng Yao the truth over the phone. Everyone had their own secrets. Yushu, who always liked to gossip, surprisingly didn't try to pry. She was the same as Wang Xinyan, having a secret that she couldn't divulge. She liked Lin Yi too and she liked living in this villa. But she knew that one day all of this would no longer belong to her. The hidden house Yu's strength, to be honest, was like a mountain in front of Lin Yi. But now Lin Yi's strength after the meeting of the hidden houses showed that he was on par with the hidden house Yu. Especially now that Lin Yi had broken through to Earth class mid-phase peak, House Yu would have to think twice before making a move on Lin Yi. Under this situation, Yushu knew that if she begged Lin Yi to save her parents, it wouldn't be too hard. At least, House Yu didn't want to openly go against Lin Yi. This could be seen from the fact that they didn't send masters to assassinate Lin Yi, instead using poison to assassinate him. They didn't want to have a direct confrontation with Lin Yi. At least, they didn't have a high chance of winning. So if Lin Yi failed to get Yushu's parents, Lin Yi and the hidden house Yu would completely fall out. If the hidden house Yu was just a hidden house Yu, it wouldn't matter, but Yushu knew that behind the hidden house Yu, there was an extremely powerful backer. When Yushu was young, Elder Yu had once let slip that his backer didn't even put the ancient sex in his eyes. Just what kind of existence was that? So, Yushu could only bury her worries and pain in her heart. She knew how strong Lin Yi was. Although Yushu seemed to be a troublemaker and would often cause trouble for Lin Yi, in reality, Yushu never messed with people that she couldn't afford to mess with. This was also her cleverness. She would rather suffer than bring trouble to Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't even have the strength to take down the hidden house, not to mention the ancient sects. Even if Lin Yi could stand on equal footing with the ancient sects, he might not be able to go against the hidden house Yu. So, Yushu could only choose to accept it quietly and do her best to stay by Lin Yi's side. She could only muddle through the days with the warmth. Maybe one day this warmth would leave her. She had pulled Han Jingjing over with the intention of replacing her. Yushu had chosen Xinyan because she wasn't a scheming person. Even if she moved into the villa, she wouldn't fight with Meng Yao for Meng Yao's favor. She wouldn't start an internal war. Han Jingjing, on the other hand. Yushu just couldn't see through her. This girl looked cute, but Yushu didn't think that was the case at all. She was the genius Shu, then she was the genius Jing. Things like scientific alchemy weren't something a normal person could come up with. As a result, Yushu felt that under Han Jingjing's cute and adorable appearance, there was a girl with an IQ similar to her own, and a mind that was no less scheming than hers. A person like that, if they were on good terms with Mengyao, would protect her and even help her out with some small problems. But if she wanted to fight with Mengyao, Mengyao wouldn't be her match. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.